the track that started it all. Formula One cars had been around before, but the World Championship as we know it kicked off here at Silverstone in 1950. Since then, it has been amongst the most sought after wins on the calendar. And today, one of our drivers will add it to their list of achievements as we get ready to watch the Majors British Grand Prix. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. I am Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Mike Naus and Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Bradley Cooper, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Silverstone today is nothing like the hay bales and airplane runways of 1950, so let's get a look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Silverstone. Most famously known for being the first circuit to host a round of Formula One, this place has since become synonymous with British motorsports. Hosting everything from sports cars to touring cars to open wheels and even motorcycles, it's a track that fits a wide variety of vehicles. With 3 different layouts to choose from, you've got a little something for any level of racing. The longest of those layouts boasts 18 turns along 3.19 miles. That comes out to 5.13 kilometers in metrics, so it can take a bit to get around it, even in higher-powered machinery. Its main characteristics are the high-speed straights and corners and general lack of elevation change. Its most famous set of turns is most definitely the Maggots-Beckett sequence, in which anything with high downforce finds itself challenged with the rapid changes of direction. However, don't discount the first couple corners in this latest iteration of the track. Abbey and Farm often require a greatly balanced car and some serious bravery if you're side by side. Corners such as Village, Brooklyn, Stowe, and Vale see the majority of overtaking action, but in cars with less horsepower, expect the draft to offer other opportunities. The Hangar Straight is perhaps the most notorious for draft battles to erupt. All in all, this versatile racetrack located just northwest of London provides both history in its roots and action on the tarmac. The huge number of British fans that typically attend events are seldom left wanting. Well, Joey, this place has seen so much racing over the years, but to me, it's really cool that we get to see modern F1 cars at this track today.
It's fitting because it really is the home of modern British road racing. And Silverstone Circuit, we are doing the full GP layout, 18 turns, 3.19 miles in length, just a tick over 5.1 kilometers. And this place meant for open wheel cars. It's going to be right at home here, high downforce, but talking about the track itself, turn 1, Abbey, one of the fastest corners in all of motorsports. Turns 3 and 4, Village in the Loop, a great passing opportunity for all of these cars. And really, you make your way around this entire circuit. Turn 6 and 7, Brooklands and Luffield, another great passing opportunity if you can really get the power down, but then it feeds into the old racetrack. Cops, turn 9, incredibly fast. Then you get the switchbacks, the change of direction, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, just incredible to watch these high downforce cars rocket their way through there, out onto the Hangar Straight, through the incredibly fast turn 15, also known as Stowe. And trust me, the passing opportunities don't end there. The final chicane, turn 16 and 17, always a place to sneak up the inside there. Silverstone Circuit, you can point at any one of these corners. It is a passing opportunity.
Definitely. It's going to be very high speeds around this place. Now, we are in the midst of qualifying. We are going to be showing Q2 and Q3 today. So let's go over our qualifying details for today's event. And we're going to be starting out with 30 minutes here for Q2. Since they've already run Q1 over the course of the week, this has now been limited to much fewer drivers than what they had before. And only the top 36 will get through that Q2. Then we go to Q3, and it'll be 25 minutes to narrow it down to our 24 drivers that will race in the race itself, which we'll go to after this coverage. Right now, drivers are still out on track and currently putting some times in. It is open qualifying, just like the real F1 cars do, Mike. And I'm seeing Ross Banfield on the provisional pole here in the early stages, considering he's vying for a potential championship. This is going to be an important day for him.
Yeah, most certainly is, Ross. He was on there by a good margin, but as it stands, Brian coming in there in P2 just off the pace. About half a second is the gap, but so far, pretty good margins for Ross up at the front. We have Lucas as well sitting in P3, 1 second off the timing charts. Quite a big of a gap here as it stands, but there still is plenty of time left here in this qualifying session for these drivers to improve.
And unlike the real cars, they do have unlimited tire sets to get out there. I assume it's all going to be these soft tires here, Joey, to try and get themselves quick enough to get a highest position as possible, especially in this Q2 session where mainly you just need to be worried about being in those top 36.
You gotta love the virtual world. You got unlimited sets of tires. It's almost like you got the factory right there in the garage. So yeah, you're gonna see the softest tire sets. You go out there, you do your sprint for 1, maybe 2 laps if you kind of mess up that first set of corners, but then you're gonna be right back into the pits, get that brand new set of tires, and right back out there to start improving on your lap time. Remember, Joe, the track also rubbers up, so it will pick up speed too.
That's a good point. We've been seeing a lot of clouds up till now, which is pretty normal for British weather. So I'm sure they're not going to appreciate the track heating up here as the sun starts to pound down. I know it says 51 minutes left, but what you want to look for is that 30-minute left mark on the upper left. That is when they will end this Q2 session. And Banfield still holding that top position for now. We're still actually waiting for a number of drivers to set a time. Much like real life, their times will get deleted if they go outside the track boundaries. I am getting an update actually behind the scenes. And looks like actually because of the limited number of drivers, we're being informed that they will only make it one long qualifying session. So this will actually be the 51 minutes, I'm being told, and it'll go from 34 drivers now to down to 20 for the race itself. So slightly changed from what we had earlier anticipated, but boy, pressure must really be on. And 50 minutes, it's going to be hard by the end of this thing to try and find any inroads, Mike.
Yeah, it most certainly is. With this 50-minute qualifying, we may see some drivers sitting in the pits, as you had mentioned there, Joe, that the track is going to be rubbering in over the course of this session, and the times will only be improving as it stands, like I said before. 128.4, still pole position for Ross Banfield, and Brian Boomsma is going to be close behind the number 1 driver. I'm curious if that means he is the previous champion or not. Nonetheless, coming around this track here, lovely track of Silverstone. My personal favorite, 18 corners, 8 to the left, 10 to the right, with a whopping 11 meters or 30 feet of elevation. Of course, this is a World War II fighter base, so at least it was a World War II fighter base, not anymore. But that is obviously why it is so flat, Joe.
And it's gone through so many changes since it used to be the runways that I mentioned that it really started as back in the 50s. Like I said, there was a lot of corners that were simply hay bales that they kind of had marked out for them to try and compete on. But it was the very first race in the Drivers' Championship, the World Championship that they ran here in Formula One. And still looking for Ryan Walker to set a competitive time. Wolf Dietrich Hotto. They've got 26 cars with times on the track. Joey, there's so many places where it's easy to trip up those track boundaries.
I think when we look at the big picture, Joe, the track boundaries are going to always be there. But with the 50 minutes we keep talking about, this is an extended now qualifying session, just one long session. We have to keep our eye on the weather. Here in the sim, if that temperature starts to drop at all, you want to be on the track because that is going to be time that you will be gaining. Also, I see some clouds. If you are sitting in the pits and a cloud rolls over one of these corners, once again, you are sitting there while potential time you can be shaving off of your lap. So it'll be interesting to see how each one of these drivers really approaches this session.
0.8 of a second to make up for Brian Boomsma. I know that we're only a couple minutes into it so far, about 12 minutes into this, so it's still early, but 0.8 seems quite massive, even at a track of this length. He'll cross the line, does not improve on his 28.9. Such complex cars, Mike. I would have to think, since they do have all the systems that the real car has, that they're going to have to try and recharge the batteries, get the ERS ready to go, and try and get those flyers down.
Yeah, these V6 hybrid cars, a bit of a handful to drive, and as you said, they need to recover on these laps. Got to have a little bit of a cool down lap. The tires, of course, after this lap will be screaming, though they has the longer straights here at Silverstone, which of that nature does allow the tires, in fact, to cool down to levels where sometimes the drivers don't even want them to be at the end of a straight. You come into the braking zone at the end, heading down towards Stowe, and sometimes, well, your brakes are not quite up to temperature to get you stopped in time. Nonetheless, I'd love to pop on board with one of these drivers to see what it's like behind the wheel of one of these cars and just see the first-person perspective. Well, get a great view there. And now as we head down the hangar straight, heading towards exactly what I was just saying, Stowe, looking for that braking marker off onto the side around that 50-meter board is where you're going to start your turn in, flying into that corner, maximizing your minimum speed here, heading now in towards the chicane. Tight and narrow entry. Got to get as close to the curbs as you can, as you're saying, Joe. Track limits being a big problem here. Well, not necessarily a big problem, but a problem that the drivers need to keep an eye on. Maybe not quite to the levels of some of the other tracks out there. As it stands so far, a very clean lap from Kyle Deckard, who we're on board with currently.
And he'll want that to be nice and clean. He sits third. He's about 9/10 of a second off of Ross Banfield. Looks like Boomsma improved down to a 6/10 of a second away from Banfield. So he's found a little bit of pace on the last time through with a 28.7. But still plenty of work to do. We're going to hop on board with Brian, and we're going to watch him try to navigate his way through. He's going to abandon this lap.
Sometimes if you make a mistake, it's better just to do a complete reset out there. And not only with the car, but just kind of a mental reset. Get prepared again, get that out of your mind. Go back out there, do your usual run of things, and start your lap time again. With the open setups, you have that kind of confidence that you can go back in there with minimal fuel and just go out there and redo your qualifying effort.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. Although, much like the real thing, they won't be able to refuel in the race itself. It is not allowed. The cars will not do it. So you have to put enough fuel in to get to the finish, or else you're basically going to come to a halt and your day is over. Banfield's now sitting a 28.0, goes a little bit faster. 0.56, actually, it looks like that time. So just a few hundredths quicker that time through as he heads down into the infield section here. Actually, no, this is him heading through the Beckett sequence now onto the hangar straight, and didn't quite maximize the course. I suspect this is a cool down lap for him, Mike.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Banfield here leading the championship is to be said, of course, with one race win in that championship as well. Maybe going to be looking to bring home another one tonight. Silverstone looking strong at the start here for Ross. I do got to give credit there. Over half a second margin to P2, which if anyone is curious, human eye blinks about 0.2 of a second, and when we're looking at margins qualifying normally around the thousandths here, Ross is really setting a pretty barnstormer of a pace here heading in down on his cool outlap. We also mentioned before that there's an unlimited tire set here tonight, which means at any point these drivers can come in, strap on a new set of boots, as you can see the back end stepping out there for Ross, and that is not going to help their laps whatsoever, Joey.
Plenty of time left here as Ross enters this corner. You see that 128.0. He is on provisional pole right now, and I'm looking for the next challenger, and I really do think it's going to come from Dallas Pataska, who is not currently on track. I think that he's one of these drivers that's just kind of waiting, letting everybody throw down a lap time, let that track get rubbered in a little bit, maybe let those temps come down, let that speed in the car come up, and then go out there and challenge Ross. But I have a feeling until Pataska gets out on the racetrack, Ross is just going to look extremely impressive over and over and over.
I wonder if we could take a look at the 101 car, Hokenschut. He's currently showing half a second improvement right now, and he's in 17th. Remember, it's the top 20 that will advance to the top split race, which we'll be covering once qualifying is over. So him sitting in 17th is probably a little bit of a nervy position for him, as the Bright Esports driver takes it through the Magnussen-Beckett sequence as well. Hopefully doesn't get dirty air from Wolf-Dietrich Hoppe, who's going to pull off to the side and let him through. Still showing 3/10 to the good, Joey. I think the 101 could jump up a couple positions.
Drew Stowe, an incredibly fast right-hander, and all he's got to do is get on the brakes here, get down a few gears, navigate this tricky little chicane section. I'm still noticing he's tracking about 4/10 to the good from his current time. Let's see what he's able to put down, a 129.9. That'll jump him up into 13th spot.
That is much more comfortable, and he pulls off to the side. He's happy with that. He gets to relax for a brief moment. I see Matt Gelder in the 69 car actually on, wow, he is improving by 7/8 of a second potentially here. This could be huge for him. He's outside of the cut line right now as he comes around the final corner to the line. What's it going to be for him? A 30.932, and that will jump him only up to 21st. That is kind of shocking. I wonder if he messed up that last corner because he was looking really good.
Yeah, very, very tight there at the end for these drivers, especially down in the midfield. I got to say, some extremely tight gaps between them. Seeing less than from P11, P9 down to P13, separated by less than 2/10 of a second, which is quite incredible margins for these drivers, especially. And as you were saying before there, Joey, we will see some more quick drivers come out as we wait for Dallas Pataska, thank you. Apologies on the mispronunciations, as well as Austin Milwain, who is not out there just yet. Once we see them set some times on the board, I'm sure we'll see them get a little bit closer. We saw a bit of a spin. The brakes there maybe getting to the best of some of these drivers. You can see maybe pushing those tires now to the end of their life.
Could be.
Joe, I want to jump in here because I do think that the tires, they could be to the end of their life, but we got to remember they have the ability to come in and pit and put new stuff on. So that's definitely up to a driver decision to maybe leave themselves out there too long for what their tires' abilities are. And the other thing, Joe, we haven't seen any of these cars working together at all. Now, you don't want to be behind a car in terms of dirty air through a lot of the sections of corners, but the hanger straight and some of these other opportunities, you can gain lap time in that slipstream.
Nice improvement by Dawson Brock. He jumps up to 8th position now with his 129.5. He pulls off to the side. He's happy with that and is going to sit back, I assume, for a little bit since he has gotten himself that much safer. Edward Shelley just also jumped up into 7th. We are seeing improvement now. Now, these drivers have been practicing all week, but of course, the weather conditions can always be different, as Vrosky unfortunately discovers just how hard it is to get the power down with all the oomph that these Formula One cars have. But Mike, these cars obviously they've had all the practice, but I'm sure even just a little bit of change in the weather could mean very different driving, very different limits that they have to try and now figure out in this session.
Yeah, most certainly. And here at Silverstone, the weather can change at any possible second. Of course, it can start bucketing down in terms of rain. Oh, I guess not here in iRacing. But nonetheless, it can really shake things up for these drivers in terms of conditions. As we mentioned, the cooler conditions going to be where they are going to be optimum. Of course, more air per air, the intake going to be loving that in the engine at its absolute finest. As we see Dawson here come across the line. Nope, that's the wrong line. Coming down the old line, heading into the Magnussen-Beckett sector it'll be now. So we're about to see him pitch this car in, try to use all of the track. Use that entry curb very nicely, miss that corner just slightly, and then chuck it in using all of the curbs. Could have used even a little bit more on exit there. Getting the power down onto the hanger straight. This is where all the lap time can be made, as we said before. A toe would be so nice for these drivers, just having the car in front of you punch a massive hole in the air, Joey. And these drivers not quite doing that just yet, but still with 38 minutes, anything can happen in racing, and it normally does.
And there's a couple opportunities to do that with the slipstream here. However, you really have to be working together. It has to line up properly. So I think if we see teammates exit the pits together, it could be an opportunity. Otherwise, you just kind of have to take what comes to you on the racetrack, especially given a qualifying session.
Watching Dawson continue on around and checking to see who's looking like they might have improvement, and currently seen, it looks like actually Michael Hogg, who is in the 744 machine. He's way down in 28th. He's showing a second and a half quicker. Well, he just spun it off the course out through left field, unfortunately. So he'll park that one. Well, it was going to be massive gains, Mike, until that moment.
Yeah, he needs some massive gains as well as that time difference. As you mentioned before, that cutoff window is going to be ever crucial to get yourself up into that as it stands. Needing to put a little bit more time on the board and a solid lap together. We see the current driver we're on board with here, a 1:30 in the NRG Racing, the number 115, currently sitting in P20. Our pole position has actually gone down into the 127s now. Ross Banfield is absolutely flying out there, Joe.
And I'm pretty sure most of his laps have been good enough for Paul Boomsma, his quickest is a 28.4. And yeah, there has only been one lap that is close to that. The first one from Ross Banfield did 28.462. So Boomsma hasn't even, he's only just managed to put one lap in underneath one of Ross Banfield's lap. It is looking very solid for the 777, at least right now, with about 37 minutes left to go in qualifying. Jorge Martinez here in sixth position, 0.3 to the good. Could he manage to get himself a few positions? He only needs to make up 1/10 to catch up to Lucas Raskiewicz in the 3:23 in front of him. And now he's showing about half a second to 0.6 of a second improvement. A couple more corners, Joey, and he could be right up the tower.
Just nail the brake marker right here. Don't overshoot this final chicane. And then most importantly, keep it in the track limits on this tricky little right-hander. It looks like Martinez will improve his lap time. 128.4. That jumps him up into the top 3. So a fantastic effort for that number 35. And I've been going through the data, right? The qualifying laps out here, Joe. I like to see the approaches that each one of these drivers make. Well, our provisional pole sitter, Ross Banfield, he goes out there, sets a flyer, and then he pulls immediately back into the pits. Brian Boomsma, he actually has a different approach. He goes out there, does a very, very slow out lap, does one timed lap at an incredibly slow pace, and then his second lap, that's when he actually goes for his qualifying effort.
Interesting. Ooh, we got a lot of drivers improving, including this here, Dawson Brock. Bobrovsky behind him, Edward Shelley also looking like they might find good time. Number of drivers are suddenly going quicker. Dawson jumps up to 7th with a 1:29.1 that time through. It looks like Edward Shelley going to be the next one across, maybe, or Bobrovsky. No, Bobrovsky abandons his lap. So Edward Shelley carries on through the last chicane, out through Vale and Club to the timing line. Is this going to be better? 29 flat for him, and he goes up to 6th.
Nice.
I want to jump in here. I'm sorry, but like that cockpit camera that we saw, we see that paint so often in F1. It reminded me of the FlowViz paint.
It does, yeah, now that you say that.
As it is a qualifying session, these drivers hopefully have had all of their testing out and got all of their aerodynamic information, or data gathering, should we say, in the qualifying or in the free practice sessions. We're on board now with Stefan here. He is on a fastest lap of just about into the 128s, just on the cusp there of getting into our top 3. Stefan currently negotiating the Vale complex, now coming on to the old straight. Or is it the final straight? It's so hard to tell.
But that's the old pit straight, yeah.
That's the old pit straight, okay. Is coming through Copse now, trying to use all the track there, not wash wide. One of the fastest corners in all of Formula 1. Now, the Maggots and Beckett sector got to chuck it into the first few corners, and it's all about getting the best exit possible here through Chapel, opening that car up. We're using the car just to allow it to wash wide. You don't want to scrub off any speed onto the hanger straight here. Heading down towards Stowe. You can see lovely rear wing angle as that car getting smashed to the ground by these aerodynamics. And into the pits we go, getting a nice pit entry there. Going to strap on a new set of boots and try again here for Stefan.
For those that are used to Formula One, this is going to be old hat, but for those that don't, that moving wing part that you see, that flap opening up, that is the DRS flap, drag reduction system. They are allowed to use it at any time here in the qualifying session on two specific straightaways, the Wellington Straight and the Hangar Straight. When we get to the race, it will be normal Formula One rules as they do in the real world, where you can only use the DRS flap open if you are within 1 second of the car ahead. What this does is helps them attempt to overtake one another, since it is very hard to follow in some of these faster corners with all the dirty air being washed off the back of the cars and reducing the downforce. So if you're wondering what that's about, that is your quick introduction to the world of DRS flaps in Formula One. I'm sure we'll talk about it plenty, as David Baker definitely making use of it, currently sitting in 10th, and it's going to be close on if he's going to be able to make a faster lap here.
Yeah, I'm showing time and scoring is tracking him slightly better than his previous pace, but we're going to have to see what the official timing and scoring line says. His best right now, 129.5, and he lays down a 129.9, so not going to improve on that lap. Stays currently 10th on the board. Going to have to find his way into pit lane, strap on a new set of shoes, or boots as Mike calls it, and then go back out there and try again, Joe.
And this is our pole sitter, provisional pole sitter, still at about half a second ahead of Boomsma. He's got it down to 27.963, so that was the one that we saw him improve to last. Hasn't seen any faster times since. Boomsma is still trying to get himself set up and ready for a quick one. Haven't seen too many of the teammates out there trying to set up some sort of slipstream train. In fact, you can see that Brian is behind Hato, who is not his teammate, is just trying to get out of the way and let him prep those tires as he weaves to get some heat into the rubber. Forged NRG driver finding himself having to do as much as he can to try and make up the time. So we'll check out Kyle Deckard in the meantime, who sits in 4th. And this is something where we have to remember, Mike, that these drivers have to drive all different types of cars in this series, in the majors. So whenever we bring up the fact, oh, well, they might not be familiar with this car, especially if you're not familiar with it, oh my goodness, that's jumping to the deep end.
Yeah, these cars are just short of 1,000 horsepower, so they're closer to the real-life cars, which I'm assuming they are. And one thing I also wanted to mention there is we were on board briefly with Kyle Deckard. He did pull into the pits. All of these drivers, of course, we've been talking about Ross Banfield a lot here at the start, but all of these drivers, they have been whittling away at that time. We see it here. We're on board with Jorge Martinez, and he is currently just under, or just above half a second. Was around that 6/10 margin, slowly chipping it away 10th per 10th as he negotiates the Vale chicane and actually is going to invalidate. I saw that was a very poor entry into it, and he is going to return to the garage and come back out next time around.
So the plot thickens. I've been given more information by Race Control. These times will set the grid as well. And Joey, we know in Formula One, track position is oh so important. So if you think you can do better, it's not just about being safe now. Those top 20, they want to get as high up the order as they can.
And when we talk about track position in the race, this standing start, you want to be as far forward as possible. And I mentioned when we were covering the track earlier, Silverstone has tons of passing opportunities. So yeah, sure, you could go up there and pass cars, but we haven't even talked about the dirty air yet. So the further you are back in that field, the more and the more dirty air you're going to have to deal with. It just plays to that point, Joe. Track position, doesn't matter if it's a standing start or if you're racing, it is important.
Grabowski having lots of trouble there. I think that was through Luffield. They lost the car completely. Off into the ground he goes, and he'll have to start back over on that qualifying run. Boomsma following very slowly behind Edward Shelley. Are these two working together? I'm not sure that these are teammates, and I have to double check to see if that's the case here. And is he backing off? No, he looks like he is.
This is what he's been doing. I've been mentioning that he does a really, really slow first timed lap. There's a couple different approaches that you can do to your qualifying effort, and Brian is going out there and doing an extremely slow timed lap to really make sure his tires are up to temperature, and then he goes for it.
Let's see if this one is a go-for-it lap as he takes off through Village and into the loop now, still following behind Edward Shelley. So he's going to be getting a bit of the dirty air here, but here onto the Wellington Straight, one of the longest straights on the track, he'll start to feel a nice little toe, and going to watch his time. It's not looking like it's improving much. I think he was working together with Shelley, because Shelley just went way off into the dirt as soon as he hit the end of the straight.
That was definitely planned there. And you can see, though, Brian just not able to really get the best out of the car on this lap. I think that preparation lap that he had maybe didn't quite get that rubber up to the full temperature as he's struggling for grip. Tilts it in there, very nicely done, and now he heads towards Maggots and Beckett's. This is going to be where all of your time, or most of your time, can be made or break here. Chucks it in, using all the curb on the inside. Nicely done. That is maximizing the track right there. And onto the the Hanger Straight. Once again, going to be flat out, heading down. Lovely engine sound of that V6 hybrid. Turbocharged. And now towards the Vale Chicane. He is on it. I wish I had the Delta Joe to tell me how much he is improving right now, or if he is at all.
He's showing about 2/10 to the good right now. This is looking good, but I don't think it'll get him pole position. 28.3. That was with help. He's still about 3/10 and some change off of Ross Banfield. I'm sure that's a little bit demoralizing on this one. Ross has figured out something the rest have not. So move over Lewis Hamilton. I think Ross has figured out exactly how to make a Mercedes quick.
And are you really surprised, Joe? I mean, we're used to seeing Ross Banfield up at the front. I can't wait to see that number 23 of Dallas Pataska and what he can do, because remember, we've been talking about this qualifying effort and the 20 cars that are going. We haven't seen one of the championship contenders even out on the track yet.
Yeah, as it says, the number 23 car will be coming out soon enough. I'm pretty sure we are getting down to the end of the qualifying, and the track is going to be getting fully rubbered. And of course, 51 minutes of a qualifying session. The drivers pushing all out every single lap, Joe. This track is going to have the maximum grip by the end of this.
Yeah, this is more akin to what they had for qualifying in the 90s and early 2000s, where they were given an hour to try and set their best time, and everybody will kind of win out at once to set the entire grid. As we watch Wolf Dietrich Hotho, he's outside that cut line right now in 26th position. The two on the bubble that we need to watch out for is Stuart Elder. He's in 20th. And then the first one outside the line is Ryan Walker. And Ryan comes over from IndyCars, actually, interestingly, even though he's a Scottish driver. Won the Indy 500 this year. And Walker is hopped over onto the F1 side, not running quite as fast, but still doing fairly well for himself. He's about 3 seconds off the pole time currently.
He is also one of our buddies here at GSRC, always feeding us the insider information. So I'm going to be curious to see if Ryan Walker can improve. I know that he was so pumped after that Indianapolis 500 win here in the sim. He's always posting the highlights of it. It really has been a high point on his sim racing career. I'm curious. Let's see if we can get him another high here in the majors.
Yep, if he can make it to the top split, I'm sure he'll be thrilled with that alone. And then it'll no doubt be a lot about keeping out of trouble in the race itself. Like I said, these cars very unfamiliar with the drivers. As we check out Ryan's actual driver cam here, racing from the bedroom with his rig, and he is getting ready for a lap, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was an out lap for him. So now he sets off on a flyer.
Heading in now to the first corner, chucks it in. He's going to be looking to hook up that farm sector nicely here. Just tilts it in. Maybe could have used a little more curve. Just gets off to, you can see how far to the right-hand side of the track they go there just to maximize the entry speed here onto the Wellington. Car getting out of the way very nicely for him. Of course, if you want to be generous in the qualifying sessions and pay the favor forward, someone else will pay it to you. Now in towards what I'm used to being the final few corners, of course, coming from GT Racing. This is with a layout that we normally use, but nonetheless coming on towards through Woodcote Sweep now to the old line. And now one of the quickest corners on the track. You can see hooking your corner or hooking your tire up on the left-hand side, just throwing it in, chuck down a gear, full flat out now, heading into Maggots and Beckett's. It's just about, say, maximizing your minimum speed here. Could have used a little bit more curving. once again, maybe could have used a little bit more curbing. Still going to get a good exit. Here's P21 is what we're looking at currently. 107 heading on to the Wellington, the hangar, excuse me. A few more corners to go, negotiating just a chicane left, pretty much. 3 more corners, looking for that braking marker at the curbing. It's maybe not quite using all the track, just to the maximum advantage. Now onto the start-finish straight, comes across the line, was P21. He's going to stay that. Oh, 15, nicely done. That was extremely good.
He went about a second faster than his previous best. It was a huge improvement for Ryan Walker. He is now above the cut line. That means that Wallet is the last one that will get through in the 658 car, and Stuart Elder has been bumped out into 21st. So Walker parks the car. Elder is out on track. And here's the crazy thing, Joey. Elder needs to make up 0.006 of a second to get above the cut line and pass Wallet.
Well, unfortunately, I think that he's going to have to do a little bit more than 0.006 of a second, but we're going to see if he can pick up time here on this specific lap because, Joe, the car that I've been waiting for, the number 23, Dallas Pataska, has officially hit the racetrack. He is on a very slow out lap right now, but I have a feeling the board is going to be shuffled down one spot.
That's a good point, and I'm glad to see he's getting out there. I was a little bit worried that maybe something had happened and we wouldn't see Dallas get to take part in the race. Sometimes things can happen, and even though he signed into the session, if something happens in real life that takes him away from the computer, obviously he won't be able to take part in the race itself. Stuart Elder, I believe, is on his out lap. Yes, he's on his out lap, so he now starts his first flyer in this set of laps for himself with about 21 minutes left to go on the clock. Again, 6,000 that he has to move up one position currently, but we think that might change pretty soon once we get Dallas Pataska to set his first competitive time. Banfield is still your current pole sitter with a 27.9, the only driver to have broken underneath a 128.
As of now, though, Joe, we'll see. I have confidence here in Brian Boomsma that he can drop that time by just 3.5 tenths and come down into that very, very quick window into the 27s. One thing I do got to say, though, who doesn't love some Formula One qualifying, man? This is so exciting seeing these cars out there. Of course, we're seeing a little bit of racing as it stands, a prelude to what we're going to get later on in the night. But as we have it, like I say, qualifying, of course, is going to be your best opportunity to make up some track positions. We see some drivers in turn 1 here at Silverstone, as we see Stewart there go off the track. I think he is just letting more drivers by. No, he's going to try again. But of course, this track, not the most overtaking opportunities. Every corner is an overtaking opportunity, as Joey had made a comment earlier. And it's very, very true, but you're really relying on the driver in front to make a mistake and try to capitalize on that. Here in these Formula One cars, that aero wash, of course, dirty air, people like to call it, is going to hurt you quite a bit through these very flat and high-speed corners. It's hard to stay behind the car in front.
So Pataska didn't set a time that time around. He parked it and he's going to get back out on the circuit. I just saw him leave the pit lane. And William Fletcher, who are on board with, sits in 29th, one of the last drivers to have set a time. Only Michael Hogg has been slower than him. If you're curious about who will not make it currently, Stuart Elder, Matt Gelder, Mike Golightly, Lynn Kinchlow, Tom Dreiling, Wolf Dietrich-Otto, Patrick Kopp, Ernie Ludwig, William Fletcher, Michael Hogg, Carl Burke, and Dallas Pataska will be your drivers that won't go to the top split unless they set a faster time and manage to get into the top 20. This man will probably be on pole, I assume, since we're setting the top split with these times as well for that second split. I don't know if Stuart Elder would rather, Joey, start from that pole on the second split, or would he rather start from the back here in the top split?
I think you always want to be in the top split, right? You want to swim with the big fish. You always want to prove yourself as a racing car driver, keep moving up the ranks. And when we were covering Stuart Elder just a few minutes ago, I thought that he actually had a pretty good lap lined up, but as we saw, he just got stuck in traffic. So here we go. He's about to cross the start-finish line and start another one. We'll see if he can get in that top 20.
Hop on board with him. I think this was an out lap for Stewart, and yeah, that lap did not count. So He's going to he's going to park it actually and pull off to the side.
Interesting. So must not be happy with his setup or something. Maybe wants to just put on a new set of tires. Not happy with whatever. Nonetheless, plenty of time to get back out there. Of course, with a 1 minute and 30-second lap time, driver's going to be needing to get out with about minute 50 seconds of preparation to get that maximum heat into your tires. Of course, what you're looking for in your tire temperature isn't just the heat. You're also looking for, well, in terms of the surface, you're looking at your core temperatures, getting everything up to temperature, and of course, just getting that one little part of your tire, also your brakes, keeping them at temperature here at Silverstone is going to be a big issue. The clouds have parted. We're seeing some blue skies, so the cloud cover burning off just a little bit here. The temperatures shouldn't be too much of an issue for these drivers in terms of this qualifying session.
Continue to ride on board. The reason we're watching Dallas Pataska, he's the one chasing in the championship. He was leading for a good chunk of it and has recently lost out. He's not been able to attend a bunch of races, and he has lost his big points lead. Now he's got to fight back here at the final round, but first he has to make it into the top split to have a hope of even catching up to our current points leader, Ross Banfield. So far, this lap has looked okay to me, although I haven't been watching closely for the entire time. And he really needs this in these final 17 minutes or so. The nice thing for these drivers, though, unlike real life they're in Parc Ferme, they can't change the setup of the car. Here they can make little tweaks if they want during this stage, and there's nothing illegal about that for them. 29-2, Dallas is into ninth, and he immediately pulls over. So will he try and reset to pit lane and start all over again now?
And he was just a little bit slower than that first lap. Now, I know that the first lap didn't count earlier, but it was about a 129.0. It was disallowed from going out of those track limits, so 129.2 that time from Dallas Pataska. I bet you, Joe, he just wants to get a time on the board. He knows that he is in there. I'm curious if he's going to go out, maybe lower the fuel level, maybe do a couple little tweaks and see if he can get a little bit more speed out of it.
Brian Boomsma showing about a tenth quicker so far. Again, he still needs about 0.4 of a second because Banfield has now pushed it down to a 27.867. But Brian still finding time as well in these late stages in the qualifying. He'll get a pull from Edward Shelley once again, this time on the hanger straight. I anticipate Edward's just going to straight on. Yes, he does. And lets him through. Brian still only showing about a tenth, maybe a tenth quicker this time. He is struggling out there to figure out how in the world that 777 has cut his laps down so quick.
Yeah, he most certainly is. Brian here is going to come to the old line once. Oh, that was the line. Getting confused, of course. Like I said, of course, I watch GT racing primarily, so, gotta get used to that. But now, as he has it, 4.6 or 0.46 is the gap, but also do not count out the man that we're looking at right now, Jorge Martinez. He is at a 128.4, is going to come to the old line once again and continue his lap, but I presume we are going to see him drop into the 127s by the end of this session as he has been steadily improving lap after lap after lap.
It's going to get harder, though, as he tries to continue to find those improvements to figure out where he can get those tenths here and there, but he only needs a tenth to get onto the front row. And as we heard Joey mention, the more cars you can have behind you at the start, the better, so that you don't run into trouble. He slows down, Joey. I think he is preparing, as either that lap he wasn't as happy with, or he figures this is the one he meant to go for.
I think that is exactly what's going on. I'm also getting fed some information behind the scenes from Ryan Walker, who is currently, where is Ryan Walker? He settled down to 17th. He was saying that some of these drivers, they're not using any of their battery deployment on the outlaps. They're saving it all. It just shows you how complex these cars are. The drivers not only having to drive the racetrack, but really manage the car and the power delivery.
Kevin Hill shoots up to 14th with his latest lap. Right now, because of the lap that we got from Dallas Pataska, Joseph Homan is now the one sitting in 20th, last to advance through, as Jason Wallet has been bumped down to 21st. He's got to make up 3.5 tenths to get himself back into those advancing positions. That's going to be difficult because Martinez crosses the old pit straight and into Copse now. He is showing right about even with his best lap, although that was a good exit coming off the corner, temporarily jumping up to about a 10th ahead of his best time. It is going to be touch and go. He needs exactly 1/10 to jump to the front row.
As we have it, speaking of tenths, I just wanted to make a little bit of a comment in terms of these margins. We're talking about these cutoffs, and of course the top 20 make it into the top split. Currently P20 at a 130.003. There is a less than 2/10 separation between them and P14. So trying to get into this top 20, the cutoff windows are going to be so tight. Oh, Jorge, not happy with that lap whatsoever.
I thought it was looking good, but he seemed to think otherwise, so he parks it once again. Time's starting to run down. They could run out of opportunities if they're not careful. Raskovich is out on track, and he is trying to see if he can jump Jorge as well in that 323 machine, coming down into the braking of the last couple corners into Vale and through Club. Again, this is going to be close on whether or not he improves, but I don't think it'll be enough to take a position. He does go faster to a 28.8, but he will stay in fourth.
I'm curious to know kind of the mindset of some of these drivers. I saw Hakan Schott. He moved up inside the top 10, so a great lap for that number 101. But Dallas Pataska sitting there at a 29.2. I keep repeating his name. We had been fed information that this is going to set the grid for the race. With him being so far up in the championship, Joe, what do you think is going on here? Do you think he's just maybe waiting for the track temperatures, or is he happy with ninth?
I have to assume that he's happy with ninth, because I don't know what advantage he has not getting out there and at least trying to go a little bit quicker. Not sure if maybe he's not as interested in the championship this season, but yeah, it's a bit odd that the 23 has not been working as hard to try and get himself a better opportunity in this race. Edward Shelley, who is now up to 8th position, massive improvement from where we saw him before, as he went by the weaving car of Travis Henderson, trying to get his tires prepped and ready to go. There you can see those track conditions right now. 93 Fahrenheit or about 34 Celsius. Hasn't changed dramatically. Since this is an old airfield, usually we get a bit of wind, but this doesn't look too bad at 8 miles an hour.
Now, fairly tame conditions out there today. And another touch on these timing charts that I just wanted to add. P, as it stands, P8 and P7, dead even on their times, a 141.1. And I just want to emphasize, over the course of 3.6 miles, 18 corners, 8 to the left, 10 to the right, these drivers have managed to lap within the 10,000th of a second of each other. And I always go back, one of my favorite statistics, the human eye takes 0.2 of a second to blink, which you obviously say, oh, a blink of an eye is so quick. Well, when you think of 0.2 in terms of racing terms, that just really puts it into perspective, the margins and the true skill level that these drivers are driving at here tonight.
Yeah, they are pushing it to the absolute limit out there. And it looks like about 2 seconds between 20th and 1st right now. So there are those that are figuring out the edge of where the car can go a little bit better than others. But it seems as though the drivers up at the front are willing to take it right up to the edge. Ross Banfield takes it off the track once again. Something happened there that ended that lap and put him into the gravel. So now Boomsma able to try and capitalize. He's on an out lap, though, and is currently preparing himself to get ready for a run.
And looking at that top 20, because we are under 10 minutes remaining here in this qualifying session. So that top 20 cutoff, it's starting to become very, very real. We were talking about Ryan Walker. He had made his way all the way up into 16th. He has now fallen to 20th just because of other cars, other drivers on the racetrack going out there, improving their lap time. So I have a feeling the evolution of the racetrack, just the drivers, they're getting more confidence in what they understand and how far they can push their limits. You're probably going to have to be out there, especially given, only 9 minutes now remain.
And Ryan Walker's fallen all the way back to 20th once again. He's about 0.08 of a second above the cut line. Joseph Homan is the one that's trying to chase him down, and he's still out there working on it. In fact, he's just ahead of Ryan Walker on the track. So there's Ryan on your screen now in the red and blue number 97, but it looks like he's also on an out lap here. He's got 8 and some minutes if the drivers are having to jump back into the pits each time they set their fast lap just to try and reset the fuel, get fresh tires on it, and get back out there. Then he's going to have to really hustle because he's only got time probably then about 3 laps.
We also are seeing here just an update on the 23 car. They have returned to the track. So currently with 8 minutes left in qualifying, we will see Dallas put in another lap. Of course, Dallas Pataska, one of the hyped up driver that we thought would be up there in terms of the top 2 at the very least, currently sitting in P9 with 1.3 seconds to pole position, has 2 drivers that have equal times in front, 2/10 ahead of him. So quite the margins to make up here at Silverstone. But over the course, like I said before, 3.6 miles, it's very doable, but quite a lot to ask with 7 minutes and 45 seconds left in this session. Bit of a kerfuffle as well going on here, Joe. I'm not sure what you make of that.
That was Walker abandoning his lap, it looked like, so he has to reset and head back in there. Takes some of his time away now. Only 7.5 minutes left currently, and we're watching, trying to make out who we're watching here. This is Stephen Verweyen currently on the screen in the number 8. Now, you see that name and you might think, oh, well, Dutch drivers are probably quite popular right now. And I don't know where he actually hails from originally, but he races from Club Canada. So Stephen Verweyen might actually have the Dutch heritage to fall back on, but not sure that he is actually from the land of Max Verstappen, more like the land of the north here. And he is out there on a good lap right now. He sits in that 7th position, needs to make up 9 thousandths of a second to catch Kyle Deckard, and of course less than a thousandth of a second to put himself farther away from Edward Shelley.
Mr. Verweyen is definitely a fan of the open wheel cars. We see him a lot in these various leagues. Doesn't matter if it's some of the entry-level open wheel cars or the top level that we're seeing right here. He is a fan of the high downforce go-karts as we go through Stowe down to the final chicane. We're going to see if he can improve his lap time. Currently sitting at a 129.009. Can he break into the 128s? 127.44. That was a heater of a lap.
Absolutely on it that time around was Stefan.
Doesn't count, though. It was disallowed from track limits at some point.
Wow, that is really going to hurt. Of course, the number 8 car there with just a barnstormer, but he knows then he's got the pace, can set it again. That's all he's got to do with 5 minutes and 50 seconds left, though. Try not to invalidate once more.
Also, Marquinez has improved since we last looked to a 28.336. He is now within 1,000th of a second of Brian Boomsma for the front row. It is going to be really tight up there, especially if he can find just the smallest of margins on a lap. That's all he needs to try and jump up to P2 in this race. Bokenschutz in the number 101 is, I think, it looks like he's on an out lap here as he's going to pull off to the side, prepare the tires, prepare the car, maybe get the battery recharged and ready to go as he allows everybody else to fly on by. Thankfully, we don't have any penalties that will be handed out in this series for blocking other cars. Granted, they do still want you to try and make sure not to get into anybody's way. And so far, from what I've seen, everybody's been pretty good about that stuff. So, and Marquinez has just made a quicker lap up to second place, a 28.2. Boomsma has now been shuffled down into third.
Wow, 48 hundredths separating the two of those, or 48 thousandths, excuse me, separating the two of them. Such tight margins. Brian Boomsa, is he out on track? It looks like he is, so he will be able to respond. Jorge Marquinez pulls it into the pits. He will have the opportunity to go out for another one. It seems, though, that Ross Banfield has parked it, is happy with his lap time. I don't blame him. A 127.8 is quite quick, but we'll see if that comes to bite him at the end. Also, one to keep an eye on, Dallas Pataska. Where is he at? Brian here, going to be coming to the line, though. What is Brian going to put in? Currently sitting in P3. actually on the wrong part of the track. Once again, getting confused at which line we are at. Now heading towards Maggots and Beckett's, Joe.
It's okay. And yeah, Boomsma was on an outlap, it looked like, on that one. And now he's pushing. To answer your question, Pataska's still in pit lane. He isn't back out on track, and he sits in ninth. So still not trying to improve on his spot. Boomsma, I think, not happy. I'm sure that that he lost that front row starting position in the race, so he'll try and claim back that half a tenth of a second. Also, Ryan Walker jumped up to 18th, so now Dennis Cole is your last driver through, and sitting about 9 thousandths of a second ahead of Joseph Holman.
Yeah, such tight here, and Dennis going to be just on that margin, hoping to improve as well. He's currently on his lap. We can see now heading towards the not start-finish line through Stowe, excuse me, and towards the Maggots and Beckett's. Going to be nicely done using all the curb, but you can see those new flaps on the 2022 cars. Oh, and that's going to be the lap. Dennis Cole going to have to try again, and Joe, he only has one more real attempt here of actually setting a lap. And actually, wait, did he just return? That's it. That's going to be the end of his qualifying. He is going to have to bank that is going to be enough and that no other drivers improve behind him.
He will be able to get out and start a flyer, I believe, but it's, I mean, he'll have very little time to try and prep the car, unfortunately. They are also allowed to finish their hot laps in this one, much like in real F1. So as long as you cross the line before the checkered flag, you can complete the lap you're on. But once that happens, you can't start any new laps, and drivers will have to try and time it right so that if the conditions improve, if more rubber gets put down, they don't lose out. And with 2 minutes left to go, you better be heading onto the track right this second to get that next lap started in time. Joseph Oman on board with him. We know that he is the one that is currently going to be eliminated, first to be eliminated and be on the pole of the second split if he stays put where he is. I'm not showing improvement on this lap. He's about 0.3 slow, unfortunately. He's not going to have enough time to go back around and prep the car. So if he's got enough fuel on board, he's going to have to keep going to 30.1. That's not going to do it. He pulls over. He is going to finish his qualifying.
Yeah.
And Patrick Kopp just hit him there. Sorry. I don't think Patrick's going to be very happy about that. I know that maybe Homan was frustrated with him not making it through, but that cost another driver a chance to try and qualify.
Yeah, you definitely don't like to see that. Yeah, no comment on that really. But nonetheless, we're going to hop on with Jorge here. But also, I really want to keep an eye on some of these drivers that are going to be trying to knock Cole out. We have, just about Jason Wallet was 67 thousandths off the pace. He was so close, and that's going to put an end to his session. He's going to return to the garage. All of these drivers are pretty much on their final lap or their final preparation lap. Of course, as Joe said, any driver to come across the line after the time will no longer be able to start one, but any driver before the checkered flag will be able to complete one, barring any invalidations. We have Lynn currently coming down in P23. Let's see, where is, in terms of their timing, 1:30. They need to improve about half a second, just over half a second. So it's going to be quite the ask for Lynn at the end of this session.
10 seconds to go. I think Lynn Kinchlow is going to be the last one to be able to start a flyer. Yeah, he crossed the line in time. No, I was wrong. That looks like Kevin Hill followed him across, and everybody else now is going to be getting the checkered flag. For Vian is going to complete his lap. He'll be the first one in the number 8, and he's actually showing quite a bit of improvement, but I think that my timing and scoring must be lying to me because it says 4 seconds, 28.7. And that will be a jump up to 4th for him. So he did go quicker, not as much as I was promised there for a brief moment. Patrick Kopp is done with qualifying. He knows it. Tom Dreiling is slow, so he's also done, unfortunately. And Michael Hogg will be the next one to be able to finish a lap here in the 7:44.
And Dennis Cole is hanging on by a thread still. With 43 thousandths the margin, there are just the drivers. They're coming in every single time everyone crosses the line. Dennis is going to be clinching. He hopes that it's going to be enough. So far, it has been. Ryan G. Walker ended up in P18. Nice lap from him. Ended up making it through just 10 thousandths off the pace of the driver in front. So again, I always go back. These margins are so tight here. We have Tom Dreiling currently somewhere on the track, can't really tell from that angle, and that is going to be parked off into the side of the grass. It does not matter where. All that matters is that is going to be the lap for Dreiling. That is one less driver. Michael Hogg is going to be the final opportunity, and that's it. Michael Hogg is going to allow Dennis Cole to remain safe in this session.
Yep, that is everybody who is able to set a qualifying time. Queue is over, and Cole will be the last one through. We'll go through your starting order as well as some more pre-race show stuff here in just a moment. We have the Majors British Grand Prix coming up in a little bit. Stick around. We'll be back after a break.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work, so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Anybody really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Welcome back to Silverstone. We are getting ready to watch the final round of the majors in 2023. It's the Majors British Grand Prix. Qualifying is done, which means it's time for the race itself. So let's go over the race details for today's event so that you know what our drivers are up against. Of course, as we mentioned, this is the last one of the season, 52 laps around this track. This is in the Mercedes W13 E-Performance. For those that don't know Formula One car names by heart, that is the 2022 car that won at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Must use 2 of the tire compounds out of the 3 that are offered. They have the hard, the soft, and the medium. And I assume that it's probably going to be softs and mediums for this race. Could be mediums and hards, but regardless, we'll watch and see if we can keep an eye out on who is using what. Open setup this series, as it always is. That's going to be a nightmare, considering you need an engineering degree to set up the real thing. I'm sure that drivers are having to use a lot of scratching their heads to figure out what works and what doesn't. Drive-through penalty will be at 24 incidents, much like real F1. They have an incident limit as to how many times they can go off track. It's a little bit more leeway than what they can do in the real world, but they'll get a drive-through at 24, and then every 10 after, they'll get another drive-through. They also have something they don't have in the real world. They used to have T cars in Formula One, but the spare car is here in the majors in case you do have a wreck or some damage that you need fixed, and it's too much to try and sit and have the car taped up and sent back out. Other than that, why don't we take a look at the championship standings as well for this series? They have 2. There's the driver's standings, which we will look at first here. And up at the top of that, as we've been mentioning a lot in the qualifying, it is Ross Banfield who is at the top on that one. And in second, it is Dallas Pataska, behind by roughly 40 or 50 points. So there's definitely the ability for him to jump Banfield, but he's going to have to pass a lot of cars to do it. Apologies. I'll just go through some of the points here for you as Austin Milwayne winds up with 1,415 points himself. So he is more than 100 points back from Banfield. Could theoretically do it, but since he's not here today, there's no chance for him to overtake. Trevor Vavrovsky is going to be here today, but he's coming from as far back as 200 points, so he is not going to be able to try and take the championship. It is all down to Ross Banfield and Dallas Pataska at the very top. We also, of course, have our sponsor for this series. Make sure and check out the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. Also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. And then, of course, as always, we have our charity for each race. This time, it's the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is a nonprofit volunteer-fueled organization dedicated to finding cures for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, while improving the quality of life of children and adults affected by these diseases. For more information, check out our link in the description below. So, 20 cars are going to be lining up, much like the real thing here, Mike, getting ready to go. And I already see some drivers out there practicing their starts. I mean, even professionals can mess up the starts in these cars. This is going to be really, really difficult to get right for these guys.
Yeah, this is the most tense moment before any race, of course. The build-up, everything is going to be just weighing on your shoulders at the start, of course, where anything can happen in the race, and it normally does. Of course, you can't win the race on the first corner, but you most certainly can lose it. And these drivers, I'm sure, are all aware of that. All these drivers extremely talented out there in terms of their experience, how long they've been out on track, and as well as just their open-seater experience as well. But as we see them practicing, that is going to be the best way, I presume, to get those nerves out early. Just lap the track. That's all you really can do. Keep it out of your mind as much as possible. Ross Banfield is going to be one of those drivers out there doing that, and he is going to be starting at the front with 19 drivers behind him. And that, Joe, is going to be quite the intimidating threat at the beginning. But Ross, he's no stranger to leading a race, so I'm sure he can handle that.
I feel like they almost saved the hardest for last here. They've raced all different kinds of stuff. Last time out was in the 86 NASCAR Cup cars at North Wilkesboro, or 87 Cup cars, rather. They also had the Australian supercars recently that they raced in. They've raced in the Dallara IR01 at Indianapolis on top of things, but now Formula One cars at Silverstone is going to put them up against it. And don't worry about this warm-up. If you see drivers having problems, it will not affect the race itself. This is just them getting that little bit of practice before they will grid up here at this British famed circuit. And Ross Banfield's just kind of getting himself ready. I'm sure, as we heard Mike mention, he would love to add to that tally of wins, having only taken one so far this season. They've been very, very spread out. Most anybody has managed is two. Dallas Pataska, one of the few that have done that. Austin Milwain and Andrew Waring, the only other drivers that have won more than one this season.
Yeah, and also a good shout out from Majors Garage, our sponsor, in chat as well. If Ross finishes third or better, he will clutch the championship win, even if Dallas takes the first position here tonight. So as long as Ross finishes in first, second, or third, he should be good in terms of the championship to make it and take home that big old trophy for the entire season, of course, all 11 rounds leading up to this year as we begin the grid lineup.
Indeed. So let's go through your starting order. Ross Banfield has put it on the pole, as we mentioned, with Jorge Martinez in second position. Brian Boomsma got pushed down to third late in that qualifying, and Stephen Vervayan is fourth. Lucas Roskovich will start in P5. Then it is Dawson Brock in 6th and Kyle Deckard in 7th position. Then it'll be Edward Shelley, P8. Dallas Pataska starts in the 9th spot, and David Baker will be Hokenschut will be in 10th. David Baker starts in 11th today. Trevor Vrosky in 12th, with Daniel Howard in 13th. Stephen Grabowski 14th. Kevin Hill in 15th, and Stuart Eldred 16th. And it's Gagaro Jr., Walker, Henderson, and Cole, as it looks like they are lined up and ready to go. The engines are revving, the lights are up, and the green flag is out as we head down to the start, to the first corner. And it's a much better start here for Martinez as he's side by side with our pole sitter. He's going to have a nose ahead, but it's going to switch back as somebody slides off into the runoff there. Kyle Deckard, I think, is there. Let's go back to the leaders down into the first corner, and it is still side by side between Martinez and Banfield. Banfield is going to be able to just get away.
So close at the beginning. Ross Banfield here just getting the advantage over Jorge Martinez as they come now on towards the Hangar Straight, or the Wellington, excuse me. Going to be lining up towards Abbey. Could be, actually looks like Jorge Martinez is actually getting caught sleeping from behind. Lucas on the tail here as it's Raskovich. Apologies on the mispronunciation there. The number 323 driver. Going to be challenging the likes. So far, though, we come nip and tuck now, heading on towards the back straight, or the old straight, I should say. And all the drivers behind. Big gap, as we saw that little bit of contact on that first lap. A few drivers off. It looks like that was Kyle Deckard, as well as maybe Stuart Elder. And seemingly everyone else, though, off to a green flag here on lap 1, Joe.
Indeed, and Deckard is still going and climbing his way back through the field. Boomsma looks like he was involved in that too. He is currently last, and there he goes, spinning off in the background there, onto the Hangar Straight. He is into the gravel. He'll get it going once again. Still didn't hit the wall, luckily, but the number 1 car, who started from third, is all the way dead last and with a mountain to climb.
What a send from that yellow car. I'm not sure who that is, but what an absolute. He is going to go side by side now onto the start finish straight. They're going to go in towards this very quick right-hander. We saw, of course, it's an infamous corner at this point. Luckily, though, they managed to negotiate that position before reaching Abbey. Farm and Village coming up next into the inner loop. Nicely done. Onto the throttle. The yellow is going to be managing to make it so far.
That's Stephen Vervine that we're watching there in the number 8, being chased by Dallas Pataska. Dallas up to 6, a gain of 3 from the start in the first lap for him. So there's some of the work done, but he still has to catch up to Banfield, and he's behind by about 3 seconds right now as we come out of Luffield towards Woodcut. It looks like we're going to hop on board with Dallas, trying to chase down for Vian. And he's got about a quarter of a second to try and make up to him. Now, don't forget, once lap 2 is over, we'll start to be able to use the DRS.
Yes, the DRS, of course, available only when you're in within 1 second of the driver in front. So currently, Ross's entire goal is going to be to pull more than a second away from Jorge Marquinez before the end of lap 2. And it looks like we can see there just at a shot, he is making that gap become a reality. Currently 9/10 is the gap and improving. Jorge Marquinez, he needs to get that hammer down if he wants to stay within that DRS and have a fighting chance of the race win here tonight. Simultaneously, while that's going on, the 3-2-3 in P3 is going to be falling out of his DRS window as well. Actually, 6/10 currently from him, from Jorge in front. It's the fastest laps now being set as the drivers come across the line, set their first full official lap here tonight. Of course, first one being with the green flag. Ross Banfield leading us away as we are green, green, green here at Silverstone.
So he's got about 9/10 of a second. It is close, and as they crossed, it looked like I think Marquinez was a little too far away. Yeah, his DRS is not open, so he is not able to pull on Ross Banfield that time. He's going to have to try and get that little bit closer. Raskovich definitely was close enough, though, as he's cut it down to 6/10 of a second and is hard chasing on the 32.
Raskovich here needs to be aware, of course, as well, from Dawson Brock behind him. You can see the rear wing, though, is fairly clean for now. Lucas has managed to find himself in a decent window, accelerating towards Maggots and Beckett's now. Lovely onboard perspective. I absolutely love the first-person cameras here. Gives you the real full perspective of what these drivers are experiencing and the real handful that they have experiencing these 2022 Formula One cars. And the rear wing there is open. Of course, will be closing and closing, but it is going to be a bit of an ask here at the start. We'll see, of course, 52 laps. Anything can happen, as well as a pit stop. I'm trying to take a look at the tires that we're seeing. We're seeing mostly hards.
We've had a problem with Travis Henderson here. He has gone off track, self-spin out of the Maggots and Beckett's. He's back on the course in the number 24, but he's fallen to 19th. Interesting. Travis there. Unfortunate, the 24 car down into 19th, still recovering. We have Stefan in the pits potentially, or is he's still out on track, luckily, is going to be the 929 car. But currently, like I say, trying to take a look at those tires, I'm seeing a mix of mediums and hards. And of course, these drivers do need to use 2 different compounds of tires. There are 3 available, soft, medium, and hard. So far, though, most drivers that I'm seeing running the hard here at the start, Joe. The only one I see in the soft is Dennis Cole out there in the 621. Interesting there at the beginning. So yeah, it looks like the mediums and the hards are the way to go for most drivers here today. As we continue to watch Dennis now on screen, chasing on Kevin Hill along with Ryan Walker. Walker up 6 positions. Actually, I think he might be our hardest charger. All right, go Walker. We also have in chat here some support for our current P9, Håkan Schott, in that number 101 car. Going to be chasing down Edward Shelley. And currently about half a second is the gap as they come now on towards lap 3. See a nice 3-way battle here. Not sure who these drivers are. I wish I could see the nameplate. Side by side, though, as we go into Stowe. Looks like that is going to be the overtake firmly done, heading towards the Vale chicane. We're going to go side by side again, car on our inside, but it looks like we are far enough ahead to make that position stick for now. That is really nip and tuck, though, for Vrosky, overtaken by Håkan Schütz there in the 101. And that moves Håkan up to 8th position as we come over here. It looks like to Dallas Pataska now in the number 23. As he's chasing on Dawson Brock. Brock also up 2 position. Dallas up 4 spots. Chasing on the number 15. He's going to get a very good tow along with the DRS and up towards the inside. Dallas Pataska with an easy pass now to 4th. Nicely done from Dallas. Going to be looking up ahead to the podium positions now. Dallas, of course, one of the drivers that we were speculating on at the beginning to hold a good result, and he is looking to deliver tonight. We look off the back now. I think of Raskovich, who is being chased by Pataska. And up to the Maggots and Beckett sequence. Lucas doing a good job of holding on to Banfield and Marquinez. Those top three are all still within about 2 seconds of each other total. And there you can see Marquinez coming off of the chapel corner onto the hangar straight, has been staying, it looks like now within about a second. Yeah, because it looks like that rear wing was indeed open. So he's been able to pull the DRS, but hasn't been close enough to be able to attack.
Is going to be probably just working together with the drivers in front at this point and try to catch that gap up a little bit to Ross Banfield. Ross already actually has been reeled in just slightly. 0.6 now is the gap to Jorge in front. So DRS available for Jorge Marquinez. We may see a position change in the lead here.
He's still showing about a second away, though. I don't know if he's going to be able to get there. He's going to have to close in through this sequence, gets it down to about 0.8 of a second briefly, but it starts to extend away. There's the line for the DRS, and unfortunately, he's just a little bit too far back. So Banfield once again scampers away. As you saw, the rear wing did not open on that number 32. And I think we may have had problems for Gagaro Jr. I'm seeing if he had an off. No, he just let some cars by. Looks like some people struggling out here. That is Grabowski and Henderson that just went past for 19th and 18th.
And Jorge there going to be a little bit upset. Well, not upset. He's going to be head down, of course, but just got to get on that charge, and he was so close to that window. I thought he had it. He must have been just thousands off from the DRS, but unfortunately, no avail. As Lucas here biting at that gearbox as they come on to straight. DRS is going to be available for Lucas and not for Jorge in front.
As he starts to approach him, coming up towards the braking, decides not to take it. Wonder if he didn't feel like he was going to have enough overlap by the time they get to the braking zone. Whatever the case, he stays in third. He's got to watch out because them battling as they have has meant that Dallas Pataska has caught up to them. He is now in this DRS train, and Dawson Brock has come with him. Look at this, 4 cars essentially fighting for second place.
Yes, this could not be more exciting, and we have so many laps to go here and a pit phase to boot. It'll be interesting to see all these drivers on the hard compound tires when they decide to come in for their pit stop. Although one thing I do know is that Ross Banfield, he is going to be loving the sight of this.
Hop on board with Dallas. Remember, he needs to catch up to Banfield. 2.5 seconds right now, the gap from him to the overall leader. Pataska didn't see DRS open, interestingly. I thought he was close enough there. And now the driver does have to push a button to actually turn the DRS on. I wonder if either he just forgot to do it or maybe he was farther away than we thought. He's going to try and make the pass without the DRS and do it the long way around here at Cops. We've seen this go wrong in real life before. This time, though, he backs out of it, and Raskovich is going to hold on to P3.
We can also see that little blinking light on the back of the car in front of us there, as that means that the car in front is going to be harvesting and not deploying the full amount of their battery. It looks like, though, they have, of course, now coming on to the straight, turned that off and are going to go full deployment mode. Lovely slipstream, as well as the car in front punching a big hole in the air for us with that DRS activated. Not going to happen just yet. Daniel Pataska on the charge, though.
Still making Lucas sweat here. So it's gone from Lucas on the attack on Jorge to him having to play defense. And look, he's actually losing a little bit of ground to that P2 car that time around. So this is working out beautifully for the 32 to be able to really focus forward in these early stages of the race. He's going to need that so that Ross doesn't run away too far from him in case he can use strategy to try and undercut. We haven't even talked about that yet. We'll have pit stops later in this race since they do have to use at least 2 compounds. It's a question of how many pit stops, as we're not sure how long the tires are going to last here. If it's going to be a 1-stopper or 2. Ooh, look at this as Dallas Pataska charges down around the outside, coming into Brooklands. Can he make it stick here into Luffield? It switches around in favor for him, and he's going to take P3.
Very interesting. As they came onto that start, we're going to go side by side again now to the line, and I saw as Daniel Pataska is going to secure that side by side once again. Luca, he is using that harvesting. I'm not sure why, but he keeps putting on the harvesting mode coming onto the straight. You can see that blinking light on the back of his car. I'm not sure if he knows that he has it on, but that is going to significantly hamper his power output compared to the cars around him.
Yeah, might just have it on automatic. That's the other thing you can do in these cars is you can change the setting of how it harvests and have it do it kind of automatically for you based on what the computer thinks. And sometimes maybe that might be a little bit of a slower way, even though the computer seems to think it'll make you faster because it's going to be harvesting so much. But Lucas now sitting behind Dawson Brock, having lost 2 positions in this lap. Can Pataska chase down Jorge?
Will be the question to ask, and I definitely think he can, as Jorge has fallen off of DRS from the car in front. Happened very early on. Dallas, he's going to have to work his way into that window, but currently last lap, a 133.0 to a 133.7 of Jorge in front, so about 7/10 separating the two of them. I think Dallas should be within that gearbox within a lap or two.
Yeah, that last lap, 33.9, is certainly looking quick, but it's still slower than Banfield. Granted, he had to make a pass in there, so that could have taken some of the time out for him. Tasca still chasing to see if he can catch up to Jorge, and he's about 9/10 away, so he needs to get a little closer to ensure that he gets the DRS down the hanger straight. We'll see if he's got the speed on that one. Here is the difference in the laps between Marquinez and Pataska. And yeah, even with some of that battling, really the only slower lap was that last one and lap 7 where he was trying to make some passes.
And even that, he was almost even with the time. You can see 7/10 on his quickest lap. That's what I was looking at. My apologies. And the pace definitely is going to be there for Dallas. We were talking him up in the qualifying session. He only set, I think, 1 or 2 laps in the qualifying session compared to the rest of these drivers who had a full hour out on track and managed to put in presumably 15 laps. So Dallas, somebody we haven't seen too much in this race, but of course throughout the entirety of this championship, Dallas has been a dominant figure.
So Dallas this time by running a 33.3. Marquinez a 34.1, much, much faster. He's already on top of him as we're watching Ryan Walker now, who is being chased by Vavrovsky. I think Vavrovsky may have actually had an incident this lap because he gave that position up, so it may have been a slowdown penalty for cutting the course somewhere. So Walker jumps up into 11th, 7 positions gained. Again, this Scotsman looks like, even though he might not be the quickest over a single lap, he's got pretty good race pace.
The Flying Scotsman, of course. I know that's a name dubbed by a lot of Scottish people, but hey, tonight Ryan can have that one. He is in P11 for right now, the number 97 car. Last time around, a 134.7, so actually about 1 second off the pace of our leaders. Currently, say in P11, lapping just quicker than David H. Baker in front.
So we jump back up to Marquinez now with Pataska firmly on his gearbox. Oh, this is looking very good. Look at how close he is down through Maggots and Beckett's. As long as he gets a good run here, he's easily going to have the DRS. And yeah, you can see it pop open on the car, and he's getting close. In fact, he's already going to be past him before we can even switch the cameras. And that moves Dallas Pataska from 9th at the start up to 2nd place. And he has to make up 3 seconds to catch Ross Banfield. He's in clear air now, so we'll have to watch those times to see if he can start to gun down the 777.
Yeah, it'll be a good ask there, that's for sure. And there's only 3 things sure in this world, of course, and that's death, taxes, and Dallas Petresca getting by Jorge Marquinez here at Silverstone on lap 11. But now has a big margin to chase, as we just said, 3 seconds, but with the lap times, 3/10 quicker than Ross. Ross, though, presumably is in a bit of a managing mode. That's something we haven't touched on too much. Is going to be lifting and coasting, fuel saving, as well as just trying to keep as much life into the tires. And we saw that little harvesting light as well, keeping his battery topped up to the brim, Joe, as he comes around this circuit.
Indeed. And he made that pass before the start of this lap. So this lap should be our first real inclination to see if he has that pace. We've had some battling back and forth between Travis Henderson and Steven Grabowski. Remember, we were talking earlier how they were fighting for the last couple positions, but they've jumped up. Now we're looking at Dawson Brock, though, who has been unable to shake Lucas Raskovich. And there is, did something happen to Howard? He was slow there coming through the loop.
I saw a big puff of smoke. I think we just caught the tail end of that as we head on into a replay here, it looks like. Let's take a look. What we're about to see is the driver coming out down the start-finish straight, and presumably into the village section is going to get a little bit too much curb here, bottom out, and go flying. And that looks to be exactly what has happened there. Bottoms out on that big sausage curb on the inside and sends him facing the wrong way.
Good catch on that one. So the 640 falls to 18th because of that. And he is back on the circuit. I'm actually rather impressed. I will admit in times prior here in the majors, Mike, when we've run the F1 cars, it's been a little bit of a bloodbath because of the fact that they're so hard to drive, and there's been it's been a bit of an attrition race. Here, we still have all 20 cars running, and we also have had our first pit stop because Trevor Vavrovsky is down the lane.
Interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Going for the heavy undercut as Trevor Vavrovsky was on the hard compound of tires, I'm pretty sure. So now going to have to switch over to a softer set and work his way on the race. I'm assuming he's going for a double stop here in the night. See if he popped out on mediums or does he pop out on softs?
He's on hards.
On hards. Interesting.
So I wonder if he's saving... Well, I mean, he doesn't need to save the mediums for the end. Unless he needs this to be a much longer stint to be able to, and he can't do 2 mediums to make it one more pit stop. But yeah, I was a bit surprised by that too, to see him wind up using the hards again. If he was, maybe we just are misremembering, but regardless, Vavrovsky back out on track in 18th position right now, but still needs to make at least one more pit stop because he'll need to change tires again.
Yeah, and like you said, we could have missed something there. Maybe he did start on soft. I think he started on hards. As you caught, there was only one soft tire starter. And yeah, that might affect his strategy come later on. It might help him. We'll see. As Trevor, I'm sure he has a plan ahead, but he's going to be on some very cold set of hards, and it's going to take a while to get those heated up, and he's in traffic as well. See how that plays out. Looking up ahead, though, we have Jorge Martinez, who has stick pretty much in the DRS of Dallas in front here. But it looks like Dallas is getting further and further away as the laps go on, Joe.
So I was able to go back and look. Vavrovsky was on the medium, so he has fulfilled it. Vavrovsky has completed his obligations. Can he take these hards to the finish, though? Because that's, my goodness, he's going to have to make them last, and maybe he's just hoping for some clear track here, Mike.
Yeah, he's going to have to drive very delicately on those tires come the end of this race and avoid heavy curbing, as a puncture is going to be very possible. Here we have a nice little scrap between Stefan and Shelley. This is for P6. We see Stefan side by side. The cars are going to be through the fast right-hander now. Coming on to, I think that's Maggots and Beckett's coming up next. Side by side as we enter.
And it was Shelley who comes away with it in the end. Brave stuff from both of them. Going too wide through cops, as we have seen in the past, can often be disastrous in its results. And they've gotten away with it this time. And, have we had one of our first major wrecks? Yes, we have. Steven Grabowski, unfortunately, is out of this race. And I think this may have been some sort of hardware issue because the car looks like it's unable to stop and he's into the wall. So that looks to be our first DNF as he has officially left the session now, and Grabowski will be 20th in the end.
Yeah, definitely looked to be some sort of failure there as we see the wheel just straightening up, and hopefully he's all good and hopefully managing to fix that. But that's never a way to end a race. You hate to end a race on a technical difficulty like or technical failure. But 19 drivers carry on here tonight, Joe, and as it stands, I think we're taking a look here at Rosowski in P4.
Yep, Lucas still sitting there in the 4th position and has managed, we didn't see this. Did we catch when Dawson Brock had been passed there? Because he's now in 5th position, and I'm pretty sure he was ahead of Lucas before.
Was he?
I think he was. I want to say he was. I'm going to check and see if I can find if that pass was recent between them. And it doesn't look like it was within the last lap, so... Yeah, this must have happened some time before because I'm pretty sure Dawson Brock was ahead of him not that long ago. Regardless, he is still in the top 5, and they're still kind of all chasing Dallas Pataski. You can kind of see as we hop on board, the cars ahead are still within visual, and they're all in a bit of a train forming. So Dallas might be chasing Banfield, but he's still kind of tugging along this group.
Yeah, as they come through the chicane onto the old straight, or onto the new straight now. And all of them sticking within about a second of each other, just sticking in that DRS window. I think they, at this point, have settled their differences and are just going to be working together at this stage in terms of maintenance, not pressure each other too much into losing time, and just pull a nice little gap ahead of Edward Shelley and Stefan Verwayen. Apologies
Yeah.
for the mispronunciation.
It's okay. And one thing that I just noticed too is I looked at the last lap. Pataska 33.7, Banfield 34.3. Dallas is looking a lot faster at this stage of the race. Here is the comparison, and that's with Marquinez. We want to see with Banfield though, to see. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, so last 2 laps, Banfield has been slower. Last one by a full half second.
I still think he's got some gas in the tank there behind. I think he is leaving some on the table right now and just kind of maybe even baiting Dallas in. But of course, I don't want to say that, because if he does get into that 1 second window, that is going to be pretty much writing on the wall for Dallas, and he should have that position. Of course, though, tonight, in terms of the championship standings, all Ross has to do is finish within the top 3, even if Dallas does take the win tonight.
Exactly. So Ross, as long as he's in second, is still in a good position. But the bad news in that, and maybe I doubt this is what he's originally intended to do, because that would be a very risky plan. But Pataska's pulling along Marquinez, Raskovich, and Brock. If he brings them with him, then that makes it likely that Banfield could be overtaken by multiple cars when he gets past. It just all depends. Or at least it will put him under threat from falling outside of that top 3. Again, I highly doubt this is what Dallas Pataska planned, but it's kind of working out for him in that way.
Yeah, very interesting to see. We also have a little update in chat from Majors Garage, our sponsor, that it could last 40 laps, these hard tires, so it is doable for them. But 40 laps, that's pretty much exactly what they had to make. I have a feeling that they're going to be struggling towards the end. Of course, we're talking here on these early pit runners of David, is it Gallardo? Gagaro, excuse me, in P18 currently. So that is a very good call, and we'll see how that ends up working out for them. But up at the front here, Ross Banfield looking very comfortable as it stands, the 777, looking strong for not only just the race win tonight, but at the very least championship win. As you said, we'll see. Does he pull these cars into the contention and maybe even go for the undercut? We'll see how that works out.
Also, Trevor Vavroski has taken his pit stop, but I don't see him changing tire compounds. He stayed on the hards from what I can see. So that's going to be another stop for him at least.
Trevor Vavroski there is, as you mentioned, I think on cue going off the track. Struggling way wide.
And letting the leaders through. So he was being lapped there. Yeah, so...
My apologies.
Well, I don't think he wanted to go completely off track, though. So I think that was still an important catch there. Certainly looked like he was very much compromised by this group, and especially if he's trying to use a bit of an alternate strategy compared to the others. You mentioned 40 laps for the hard tires. Yeah, that's right on the cusp if you are... who was it that pitted, actually? It wasn't Vavroski? Yeah. Vavroski's been in the pit twice, I'm just seeing now. So now I'm even more confused. Why did Vavroski go back onto the hard tires?
Some indecision in the strategy tonight for the number 10 car. Hopefully they can make do with what they have currently and make it to the end, but I think they do need to come in for another stop, as you're pointing out there, Joe.
So I wonder if he had to take his spare car. I'm going back and checking to see if he had damage before that pit stop here. Oh, he did. So that's what it was. Mystery solved. He had a wreck somewhere on lap 14, it appears. And that car was heavily damaged. So he spun it coming onto the hangar straight and lost his rear wing. So that's why he's been in a second time. Might as well take the fresh tires because you have infinite sets the way this one is set up. And doesn't need to worry about how many he has to his name. As we check out with Brian Boomsma, who, what a climb it's been, Mike, for him coming back up through the order. Is this the replay of the incident? Well, that's a second spin there. So that happened before this. You can see the rear wing's already missing, Mike.
Yeah, that is not the ideal aero package. I don't think they tested that one in the wind tunnel. As we see the initial, this is what's going to cause it to be lost. Great modeling from the game, by the way. Look at that.
Yeah,
He
bounced
backs
off.
into it.
As well, it's a good thing he does have that spare car, because surely that would damage the gearbox. I think the way he just speared into the Armco with it back first.
Now, Joe, correct me on this, because I'm a little bit of an iRacing noob myself. How well does the game simulate that sort of damage when it comes to the actual internal components and little gubbins inside that get damaged?
If you hit where those gubbins are, then you're likely going to impact some forces on it. So yes, you can damage those parts of the car. I won't blow the engine necessarily. I don't think he hit that hard, and you will see that because you'll see smoke coming out if they manage to actually blow up the engine with a wreck. But I almost have no doubt that he had to take that spare car, and I can see it on his screen that now he is the only person who has taken that spare car and is back to 18th, playing catch up on the field. Banfield, though, is about 2.1 seconds ahead. He's getting ready to tick off another lap. So this gives us another chance to try and see what the lap looks like compared to himself and Pataska, and if he's been continuing to gain on his rivals. So there's the lap comparison as Banfield crosses the line, 33.8 that time by Pataska, 33.7. Not as big of inroads this time, Mike, but he's still catching them.
Yeah, managing the gap, I would say, at this point is a good way of saying it. As Dallas slowly reeling him in, like a deep-sea bass fisherman. He is going to be out there chartering for hours and just waiting to get that catch. And an ever-patient Daniel Pataska. We'll see if that pays off at the end for him.
We've got another taker on the pit stops. It's going to be Kyle Decker this time. And I'm checking this time to see if he has damage before he reaches his pit stall. Doesn't look like that is the case. So Decker going to be our next one to bite and take his stop. He's on the mediums going in, checking to see what he gets on the way out here as he comes past me hard. So this is it. One stop for him, I would assume, since the car is now lighter. Those hards should have an easier job taking him to the finish.
Yeah, they should make it pretty handedly to the end, but we'll see if they do end up getting worn down and graining and blistering. Of course, that's going to be the biggest contributing factor here tonight, is if those tires do fall off the cliff, the so-called cliff as we call it here in racing, we will see them go a lot slower, and he is already harvesting, of course, straight out of the pits and trying to manage those tires as he has a long way to go on them.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a long second stint, but cars should be lighter. Remember, they cannot refuel, so it's going to continue to get lighter and lighter as the race goes, and he will have that to his advantage. Pataska taking another lap, 33.6 to Banfield's 33.5. Ross is responding now. He sees that Dallas is back. He wants to try and take this win, I'm sure. Yes, he doesn't want to throw away a potential championship, but he wants to be able to beat his rival.
Yeah, and also Daniel Pataska on mediums, interestingly. So he is lapping within the same pace here of Ross in front. Ross is going to be able to go a lot longer, though, in terms of track. So we are going to see Dallas come in much earlier, presumably even 5 or 6 laps earlier. We'll see how the hard tires manage, though, in this race tonight at Silverstone.
Kudos to Marquinez, because as we look at Pataska here, you can see the bright green and black car behind him has been continually holding on, and I'm not sure if he's being kind of pulled along by the DRS, or if this is legitimate that he's been able to keep the same pace even without it. I guess if he falls outside of that 1 second mark, that'll be kind of the big tell on that one, Mike. But I'm rather impressed that he's been sticking with him this long.
Yeah, so far so good. Got to give credit where credit's due. 2.2 seconds has been the very consistent gap within that 2 second window, as well behind Jorge Marquinez, about 1.5 seconds, and Lucas about 1.5 seconds as well. So the top 4 have sort of spread out a little bit. We see some DRS still being activated, of course. That is going to help with the speed. Of course, once you get to the entryway, lifting and coasting, we're going to see these drivers doing, as you said, no refueling. So trying to manage that fuel tank, manage the tires, and just make it to the end at this stage of the race.
Yeah, things have leveled out a little bit in the race right now. People have spread apart somewhat. We're looking at Edward Shelley here in 7th, chasing on Brian Boomsma. Great recovery there for the one car who started 3rd, currently 6th position. So he's regained a lot of the spots he lost at the very, very start when he made contact with Kyle Deckard through Abbey. I think also Travis Henderson about to try and take a position as the 24 car has caught up to Howard and is fighting him for 14th, a little bit farther down.
Yeah, as we have at the 640 car. What is 640 car in the pits?
Yeah, sorry. It never fails. As soon as I say it, the battle breaks up. But now we've got another taker. So 640 is going to take a different set here. Let's see if he also will switch over. He's on the hards currently. And what are they going to do once he puts the tires on? More hards. Okay, interesting.
All right, so a two-stop strategy here tonight for Daniel. He is going to have to make another stop, which means that he will have to take another 30 seconds in the pit lane. Now, do you think, Joe, that 30 seconds is going to be the advantage here of taking a fresh set of tires compared to the one stop?
I'm not entirely sure. This is a bit into unknown territory. Ooh, Pataska is in. Okay, so Pataska coming in on the medium tires. And what will he put on? Once he comes down to his pit stall, he won't have all the way to the front, even though he's towards the front of the field. It's based on where you qualify is where your pit stall is. He goes up on the jacks, and he gets hards on the car, so he's done with his pit stop. He doesn't have to do any more after this. He might be slightly slower than those out on the mediums here at the end, though. And let me see, is Ross on the mediums or hards? Ross is on the hards. Ooh. Okay, the plot thickens once again, Mike, so they're going to be on opposite tires at the end of the race.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be really exciting. And as we saw there, that was very close. Dallas Petraska, he came out in a little bit of traffic, and I think that was a back marker that almost got in the way a little bit, but I think realized pretty handedly that they were a back marker and allowed the car to go by.
So Pataska pits. I'm guessing, though, that this is an undercut attempt from Dallas at this stage. He pitted before Ross did. He's gone perhaps a little earlier than we anticipated, and he's going to try to use this to pass with the strategy rather than try and catch him and actually make the overtake on track. Unless Ross responds, and he does not. He just went past pit entry just now.
Daniel Pataska's out on mediums again. That means he has to make another stop.
Is he... No, I'm showing him on hards.
Is he on hards? Okay, we were looking at the wrong... my apologies. I guess we were looking at the wrong name there. I thought I saw that. But anyways, okay. Yeah, if he is on hards, then he's all good. I wouldn't make any sense for him to go on a medium, so...
Yeah, I couldn't see a second stop really benefiting him here. So, yeah, I'm pretty certain that he's fulfilled his needs. Oh, Dawson Brock is pitting now.
That looks like mediums on Dallas, at least we're seeing on the main feed.
So... you see here. Yeah, that does. Sometimes I will say, and this is a known bug on iRacing, is that the tires will not necessarily match what it actually is. And I can see in the sim itself the accurate reading right now. And the accurate reading is hard tires on Pataska. So
perfect. That clears that up.
It's one of those things that can be a little bit frustrating, unfortunately. But I've learned, thankfully, from the developers. They've told us ways to try and make sure that you know for sure who has got what. But Pataska down to 7th after his pit stop. Highest driver to have pitted, but we're waiting to see when Banfield will come in. And once we get a few laps, we'll start to be able to see if Pataska is running quicker than Ross, even though he's on the slower tire. Well, no, he's on fresh hards, and it's worn hards. So theoretically, he should be quicker.
Yeah, he should be. And Ross here, I'm pretty sure Ross is going to end up going till about, I don't know, probably maybe 25 laps left. It's been pretty clear that the mediums can make it the 25 laps without too much of a fall off, as Pataska was lapping quite well at the end of his stint. So Ross, that's going to give him a bit of confidence come his time to change tires. The mediums looking very strong here, and the hards, well, they're looking like tires, quite frankly. It seems like they're the pretty bog standard choice, and the mediums are going to be much quicker, which as they should be.
Yeah, and I know he showed the lap comparison, but remember, he hasn't. This was just his first flying lap this time through, so we need to wait for him to get a few in. But for this specific lap, it was a 32.6 for Dallas, his quickest of the race, and Ross running a 33.5. So he's definitely looking much, much faster, and I fear for Ross Banfield that he is going to find himself in second place. When he comes out on those mediums, he's going to have to boogie.
Yeah, he's going to have to get the hammer down and get that position back early on. Of course, he'll be on cold tires coming out of the pits, have one lap to get those up to temp. He'll be on the better compound, though. Of course, Dallas is going to be on those hards, but they're going to be in the optimum window at their really, optimum temperature by the time Ross ends up coming in. So it's going to be quite the battle when that dream becomes a reality for us. And quite frankly, Joe, I can't wait.
Watching Edward Shelley. This is with Boomsma just ahead of him. Shelley up 3 positions from the start himself. Boomsma, we know, had to come from the very back of the field and is very quick on his own. Forged NRG driver gets a good view of the gearbox of the number 1 machine as they fly down the pit straight, down the Hamilton straight and into Abbey. Needs to get just a little bit closer, but he is within 1 second, so he should get the DRS once they reach the Wellington straight, as long as he doesn't fall back from here.
Yeah, as they come now around, Brian going to be checking his virtual mirrors here constantly as the pressure is on. Now coming onto the straight, he has a good gap. You can see the DRS is not open from the green car behind, but wow, the closing speed. Brian seems to have much less straight line speed there than the number 34 car of Shelley.
The DRS was open on Shelley, so he did open that up. We were riding on board with Boomsma, or we are riding on board with Boomsma now, but he's pulled away slightly here now that Shelley got that little bit of a gain with the open rear wing. Just about halfway through. Next lap by marks the halfway of this race, and we still haven't seen Banfield in. Remember, the cars get lighter, so while it theoretically would make sense to cut it perfectly in half, he should have a slightly longer second stint with the car putting less pressure on the tires. Looks like Walker also pitted, so nice 4-second stop for him.
Yeah, he pit out onto mediums, and he will have to be out on mediums for the next 26 laps. So quite a bit of lapping to do, but you can see the face there of Ryan G. Walker, who's the IndyCar champion. Very calm, cool, and collected, as he is going to be just in his bedroom tonight, and just going to be a cheeky nap right after it. Why not?
So out in 15th. Needs to catch up to Dennis Coles, about 3 seconds ahead, who's also taken his pit stop about 17 laps ago. That was a long time ago. So Dennis Shirley has got to be making another pit stop somewhere along the line, which means Ryan should have that one in his hand, I imagine, soon enough. And hopefully he's got someone in his ear letting him know that he doesn't need to fight that car too hard. And there you see Cole and the distance he has over him. Stepping up to Vervine in the meantime. That is Dallas Pataska in front of him. Has Dallas actually recently passed him? Yes, he has.
Dallas so far in P6 now. He had a very good stop time as well. In fact, one of the quickest stop times here tonight. We'll see if that continues once Ross comes in. He's going to be needing to absolutely nail that. That actually could come down to the track position, in fact, as there was a few seconds separating them at the pit entry. Dallas, though, has had a few cars to contend with. That is going to affect his lap time, of course, in terms of where he's going to come out in relation to Ross. Ross, in the meantime, has had nothing but clean air in front this entire time.
Will that pay off? That's the question. The undercut, even though he has to overtake some cars here to try and make it work, since others are not pitting as early as he is, we're still waiting on about half the field to take their pit stops. So a lot of them are trying to go as long as possible, maybe trying to make that an extra short stint, I wonder, Mike, on these, if they're finishing with the mediums.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the way to go. I'm sure these drivers have practiced here on this track with these tires, and they know what works and what doesn't. And of course, we saw the soft tire in the qualifying. I doubt we're going to see that come the race time. So far, so nothing but hards and mediums out there, and a battle of which is the correct one. And as you said before, Joe, we're going to have a different compound finish here at the very end. So it's going to be a tight battle, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, very curious to see what Banfield is able to do once he gets on the medium to catch up. And you can see between them, it has been steadily in favor of Dallas Pataska. I am pretty sure he's made up those, what was it, about 2 seconds difference between them at the pit stop. So Dallas has obviously jumped him now, unless Ross has some lightning fast pit stop, which I don't think he's going to be able to cut it by 2 whole seconds, considering that would put half the time of regular stop here. He continues on and is definitely looking to try and make it a very short final stint.
Yeah, I assume that Jorge is going to be doing a very similar strategy there to Ross in front. He's maybe going to go one more lap, maybe one, probably not one less lap, probably just one more lap if I had to guess. Jorge either going to pit with him or one lap afterwards, just to go for that alternate strategy, get as much life, and have a little bit of a go later on. But Jorge, I feel like he is just going to be trying to hang on to those podium positions here come the end of this race.
Marquinez there on your screen, currently running second, but we think effectively third place because of the pit stop that Dallas Pataska's already made, and we believe going to the end. There's Dallas now on your screen. Next on his list is Ed Shelley, up the road by about 1.7 seconds. I'm sure he's kind of urging that 34 to take his pit stop soon so that he doesn't lose time trying to overtake him.
And an interesting little note here. I'm just keeping an eye on these lap times. We're seeing Ross Banfield 1:33.2 last lap. In fact, that was his fastest lap of the session. So I think at this point in time, he's getting the hammer down and getting ready to come in the pits, just using all of the excess rubber that he has and going for it on this lap.
All right, Ross Banfield is approaching the pit entry now. This is where it is on the driver's right-hand side. Nope. He's faked this out, and he carries on.
Interesting. Ross is very confident tonight, of course. He just needs to finish in the top 3, but I don't think Ross necessarily cares about that. He wants his second race win of this championship tonight, and he's looking very strong to do so.
He's had 5 wins total in his majors career. And he's never, the last time he had more than 1 win in a season was in 2020 when he raced in the European region. This is over in the Atlantic this time that he's racing, but he has had 7 top 5s out of his 9 starts. Incredible consistency in 2023, and that's why he is currently leading the points championship.
Yeah, most certainly. And also we have Daniel Pataska, who is the only other driver to have actually 5 top 5s as well in his 9 starts. All the other drivers less than that. So it is really a battle between the 2 titans here at the front come the end of this race. You can see your point standings on screen right now, or we could, with Ross leading them and Daniel just behind, or not just behind, a good margin behind, but still doable, assuming that Ross does not finish within the top 3.
So we come out of the Chapel section of the Maggots Beckett sequence and onto the Hangar Straight once again. There is your leader, Ross Banfield. We've been watching to see every time as he approaches this pit entry, and every single time he just carries on through, just like the lap before. The UDOX driver will just keep plugging away. At what point does he decide it's time to pit? Here's a question, too. And I can't, apologies if you've already brought this up, Mike. Could he maybe try and put on softs at the end? Is that what he's maybe looking to do?
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Joe. I was about to say the exact same thing as Majors Garage has so aptly put in chat, that is a very possible strategy there, to go hard soft. Yeah, that could be. And we'll see. I don't see the need for it personally, but hey, Ross Banfield, if he had his strategy in mind before he came here tonight, then I assume he is going to execute.
For those that don't follow this style of racing, and especially Formula One, the softs are theoretically quicker over 1 lap, but don't last as long. So that's the trade-off. And for him to go to softs means that he's really going to have to take care of them to get to the finish, to keep them in the right temperature range and to have enough rubber on them to make it to the checkered flag. So that's why we're so kind of taken aback by if that's the strategy that he's taking, but we're not sure. We just don't know what his plan is on this race. He's catching up to lap traffic. That's Stuart Elder, who's actually going to pull off to the side and obey the blue flags and let the leader through. So that means we now only have 16 cars of our 20 starters left on the lead lap, but we do still have 19 of those 20 starters still on the track.
Yes, and Ross here also back to that strategy call. If he makes it to lap 35 is the prediction that he can make it to the end on softs. That is quite the ask, though. At lap 35, of course, it's just over 15 laps on soft tires. We saw them out in qualifying. They put in a good maybe 4 laps. So a bit of a difference in terms of the amount of wear that we're going to be seeing. We also have our pits coming in now, and I think Jorge Martinez is in the pits, and Lucas is up into P2.
Martinez started on the hards. He goes to the mediums. So he's filled his obligations. That's about 20 laps to go for him. And he can try to push to the finish. Now this, I think, is going to give us at least something of an idea of what Ross Banfield can do. Because, again, he's been running second and third for much of this race. So Martinez is close-ish on pace compared to Ross Banfield. And if he looks lightning quick, then we know that Ross has a shot at trying to take this win. But if he doesn't look all that fast, then we know that Ross is on the wrong strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, but we do have that ability, like I said, Ross, to go onto the softs as well. If he can manage to make those last, that is the question. Of course, the lap time is going to be dropping. Dallas is absolutely flying. In fact, I think he is the fastest lap of the race, if I'm not mistaken, at a 1:32.7. Looking at, yes, looks to be. And Dallas also last lap 1:32.9. So 2/10 off of his quickest lap and lapping about 5/10 quicker than Ross this time on the track.
And don't need to see Dallas versus Dallas there on that one. Yeah, he's been consistently faster lap after lap. There we see versus Pataska. But we got another car in pit lane. Looks
that's
like Banfield.
Yeah, that's
so
Ross.
He comes in on his hards. I assume he's going to be able to go on to the mediums. Let's see if this is a quick stop for him. Also a black flag for David Gugar Jr. I wonder if he had too many incidents and is going to have to serve a drive-through. Ross Banfield comes out on the mediums, and as we expected, Pataska is a few seconds up the road already.
Yeah, what a play there from Pataska. Credit where credit's due. Of course, started in P9. Let's not pay any mind to that for a second. The number 23 car ended up putting about 2 laps in the qualifying session, qualified P9 and said, yeah, that's good enough for the race win tonight. And well, look at what we're seeing here, Joe.
Just impressive from Dallas, but maybe it'll be a win the battle, but not the war kind of situation for him. That car behind him is a lapped car. That's Trevor Vrosky. Unfortunately, with his extra incident taking the spare car, he's still sitting in 18th. Edward Shelley's in second place, but Ed still needs a pit stop. We're also still owed one by Stephen Vervayan. Otherwise, everybody but those two, Kevin Hill and Travis Henderson, still need a pit stop.
This really hurts Ross right now. Ross did not want to come out behind Edward Shelley. Of course, Edward Shelley is not a blue flag. This is for position. So he is going to have to make it on merit. Looks like with the help of DRS down the Hanger Straight, he is going to have no issue whatsoever. And I think Shelley, also fairly compliant in that arrangement, says, yeah, I still need to make my pit stop, so I'll just use you as a tow and allow you to continue on, Ross.
So we won't know this lap because that was the out lap for Banfield, so we got to wait for him to come back around to see what his actual pace is. But the gap right now is 3.4 seconds now that he's passed Shelley. It was actually, I think, about 4 seconds before, but did Pataska? No, he didn't have traffic that time through. So maybe this is working out. Oh my goodness, it's cut down to under 3 seconds. Yeah, Ross is just pulling him in hand over fist, but there's the old saying, Mike, it's one thing to catch, it's another to pass.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we had it, Joey earlier making the comment that pretty much every corner on this track is an overtaking opportunity. It does not mean that it's an easy overtaking opportunity, though. Silverstone is not necessarily an easy track to pass on. As, of course, it's very high-speed corners. There's a few heavy braking zones, into the Vale Chicane, where you'll have a good opportunity to make a nice late lunge. But other than that, it's all going to be about pure pace and driver skill alone here at Silverstone.
Down to 2.7 seconds now. Dallas is being reeled in. So the tables have very swiftly turned a complete 180. And instead, where we thought it was going to be Banfield that was under the gun, Pataska doesn't look like things are so hot now because Ross is just pulling him in each and every corner. And in fact, it's down to about 2.6 seconds at time. at times out there. Pataska is going to cross the line, and this lap for him is a 1:33 flat. Banfield, a 31.9.
Sheesh. Okay, Ross. Somebody has taken the training wheels off of that car, and he is absolutely flying with the new fastest lap. And it's actually immediately responded to by Brian Boomsma out of all of the drivers out there. Wow, my goodness, these drivers. I'm not sure, is the conditions, are they getting better? What is going on here? The cars, of course, getting lighter, but these times are flying.
So as we come down the Wellington Straight once again, Boomsma on board with him. He had the Slipstream and the DRS open as he's battling with Dawson Brock. This is for 5th position. Couldn't quite get his leg in.
Very close. Brian Boomsma almost making contact. Maybe did just slightly. The car in front. Luckily, though, nobody getting out of shape as a result. Side by side we go. That's going to be Stefan. This is a battle for P4, in fact, as we have Lucas and Stefan side by side going into Village. And it looks like Stefan is going to be behind for now, and Lucas firmly ahead. Holds that position at the moment.
Look at this train of cars, though, as Raskovich leads them and tows them along. DRS for everybody behind, but they run out of straightaway, or do they? Vervine gives space down at the apex. Brock gives a big look at it, and no, Vervine's going to be pitting in. He still needs to take his pit stop, so he is going to have to swap out those hard tires and put on some mediums now.
Yeah, and that will actually bring us down to almost our last pit runner. We still have Shelley up in the podium positions. They need to make their stop, as well as Kevin Hill and Travis Henderson. And last but not least, I think Stuart Elder. That is going to be our pit stops here tonight, and then we'll be green, green, green to the end.
All right, the drivers have found themselves some interesting strategies. And one thing I am very happy about, maybe this is because unlike real Formula One, where they have, hundreds of people on the crews, Mike, to try and sort out the strategy, here it's much smaller teams and maybe not nearly as much data. So I think we're getting a lot more variety into who tries what.
Yeah, it's going to be really down to the driver's skill here and what they have experienced over the course of their racing career. And yeah, as you said, down to the strategy calls. No race engineer this time around for some. Whew. Very deep goes Brian Boomsma. Needs to keep an eye on those track limits.
Oh, this is for the lead. That's for the lead. And with the Slipstream and the DRS, it looks like Pataska has been passed, and Banfield is your new leader on lap 35 of this race. The 777 had made us doubt, but even without our belief, he is going to take the lead away.
And Ross definitely looking like that almost was in a different class. Pataska going maybe even a little slow there. We'll see. Potential word on Dallas. We'll see later on here. The 23 car is going to remain in P2 for now, chasing down Ross Banfield. But wow, Ross, seemingly that pace, I know it's saying this is maybe a bit redundant, but coming out of nowhere, it seems, as yes, he had incredible pace before the pit stop phase, but now into the 131s, this is just on a different level.
It definitely is. And coming down the Wellington Straight, your new leader once again, who has led most of this race, Ross Banfield, needs to make, about 15 more laps before this one is over. And by winning this, he will solidly give himself the championship.
Yeah, and of course, the championship, which is not guaranteed for Ross. Anything can happen in racing, and it normally does. But if he does end up winning that championship, he doesn't just want to win the championship. He wants the race win. As we said before, he only has one race win this entire series in these 11 races. He wants to make that a second. We all know that.
Yeah, and this will be his first ever championship, though, that he's ever won in the majors. That is tough to come by. Not many people have taken them over the years. And in fact, Christian Challoner, who is competing over in the European region this time around, has taken the vast majority of them lately. So I'm sure Ross is glad he doesn't have to compete with him over here in the Atlantic region, but he's making good do. And honestly, we have to remember he's coming from behind a bit as we get a nice little battle between Dawson Brock and Jorge Martinez. Now, how did Jorge Martinez lose as much as he has? Wasn't he fighting for a podium?
Yeah, he was up in P2 at one point during this race. It seems, looking at his stop time, that he's relatively consistent with the rest of the cars, so potential penalty for Jorge? I'm not sure, as it looks like, nonetheless, we have a great scrap on our hands. Jorge going to be trying to dispatch Dawson Brock. You see cars getting off to the side there, very nicely done from them. Of course, blue flags being respectful. You mentioned earlier, you're a blue flag, you get out of the way. It's not just because of the penalty, you're also doing it just because in the future you may be blue flagging someone else, and you want them to pay it forward to you as well. So out on track, Jorge here is going to be chasing him down, Joe, but so far not able to make any massive lunges or anything happen just yet.
Still keeping nice and tight to Brian Boomsma. I'm sure he's kind of wondering what could have been, because you think about that early spin, he's about 13 seconds behind the lead. Brian's had a great race here. He's at the front of this trio that we see. There he is on screen now. And he's about, looks like 2.3 seconds off of Raskovich. Probably could have been at least ahead of him. Don't know if he would have been with Pataska, but wow, easy pass for Dawson with the DRS there.
Yeah, that looked like a little bit of Formula 1 versus Formula 2 action for a moment. I'm not sure if there was too much of a fight from Brian, but I don't think Brian would have let that one go with ease. So I think that was just pure pace and merit there from Dawson.
Looking back from Boomsma now towards Jorge Martinez. He's been overtaken by one car. Will he get lost to another here on the Wellington Straight soon as they break for Village, and then it's back into the loop, needing to get the power down as soon as they can off of this tight little hairpin and try to keep the foot down through Aintree. Ryan with the fastest lap. That's interesting. Good run, and the DRS open for both Martinez and for Boomsma here. But once they hit the braking, doesn't look like Jorge is close enough.
Jorge sticking with it, though. He's a true fighter, and you can see that in his driving style. Staying within that dirty air through one of the most tricky corner complexes to do so. Brooklyn's Luffield into Woodcut Sweep, now on to the old straight. Is going to be hot in that DRS. See the car harvesting in front. That might be a little blood in the water here for Jorge. Even though into Maggots and Beckett's, it's all about setting up your exit onto the hangar straight, heading into Stowe.
Brian, as it is right now, is still going to get the DRS unless he falls a little back here. But yeah, I'm showing him 0.7 of a second, so he'll get it too. And you can see that wing flipping up in front of us, so that'll pull him ahead slightly, but a much better... Oh! Late move, late defense from Boomsma. Almost completely runs Martinez off the course, but somehow he keeps it from spinning out in the grass, and he makes the pass on top of it.
And on the grass pass for Jorge Martinez. My goodness, if my camera was on, that threw my chair backwards there as a result of that send. That was incredible. Jorge with sheer confidence and a very late defense from the car behind, but nonetheless, he gets it done. What a job from Jorge.
I would love to see a replay of that one from the TV angles. We were on board as it happened, and that was frightening enough, but he certainly put it right to the edge there. Both of them did. Maybe taking it a bit over the limit in some ways there, Brian Boomsma, as we now take a look at the overtake. And this is coming down the hangar straight. Wow, yeah, he was 2 wheels in the grass.
It was a very late defense and a very late move as well. So both drivers, luckily, that could have been a very big airplane crash, but avoiding that handily, the two driver talent coming out on top there.
Well, now that he's managed to get by Boomsma, can Jorge catch up Dawson Brock, get himself back onto the podium potentially? Dawson sitting here in 4th. He's going to have to chase down Raskovich, who's in 3rd, as they head through the Maggots and Beckett sequence. Oh, he's got another good pull. This time Dawson doesn't have DRS for himself. Oh, this is super easy for Martinez. Jorge is by the time they get down to the braking of Stowe, and that moves him to 4th.
On a charge is Jorge Martinez. One more car to dispatch before he is up onto the podium paying positions, though the timing is not in Jorge's favor. About 2 seconds is the gap, with running down on laps. Still plenty to go. Actually, is that his front?
Boomsma just pitted in. Is this his second stop? I'm pretty sure we had seen everybody stop by now, hadn't we?
Yeah, we have.
So... Well, I do see Travis Henderson showing has not stopped yet. But Boomsma just entered his pit stall. Yes, this is his second stop, I can confirm. And he's back out onto the circuit, although he almost wrecks it coming out as the cold tires, he nearly spins the car.
Yeah, that's a bit of a challenge. You're rejoining the track as well, right in front of somebody, hopefully not impeding. It looks like they are going to be up to speed. Of course, these Formula One cars, well, they're very good at getting the power down and accelerating, assuming that they have the traction and the driver's skill to do so. And Brian here, down in P8, definitely has the ability to do that, but a very interesting pit for him here.
So we watch Dawson Brock now. He's been overtaken. And Marquinez got him too. So it's been quite the back and forth between the pair of them. Is this one of those tracks where you want to be the car ahead? Well, Marquinez is going to be able to overtake on Trevor Vrosky. Well, that was a lapped car, so Trevor probably made that one nice and easy. Dawson Brock in behind Marquinez as they try to catch up to third place. It's been interesting, Mike, because at times it's looked like the passes can be really easy, and at times it looks like it hasn't really done as much.
Yeah, this track really is about timing and the ability to just try to get the good run, going down the straights. The overspeed is one of the biggest things here, making it happen, and the DRS plays a great role into that. You're stuck in these DRS trains, Joe. It's just hard to make any moves forward or backwards for that matter, and so far we've seen that tonight. Jorge is really one of the drivers, I think, in terms of driver of the day, in terms of overtakes. Jorge has made it happen. Credit as well to Dallas Tasca for starting in P9 and up into P2 as well. So these drivers, they can make the overtakes happen, but also it's a bit of a challenge in some parts.
Certainly looks like some of them had a bigger challenge than others out here today. As we were talking earlier about the pit stops, so Travis Henderson in the 24 is the only driver now. No, actually, I take that back. Stuart Elder is showing without any pit stops himself. So that's two drivers that have not stopped yet. They will be disqualified if they don't take both sets of tires. So they're going to have to pit here soon. Ryan Walker is in, and this is not for a penalty. Why are we seeing Ryan Walker pitting in this late?
Ryan Walker pit very early, didn't he? No, he didn't, did he? Yeah, it's very interesting. We're seeing some very interesting strategies.
He's pit. I'm very certain that this is his second stop. So yeah, he is now put on the hards. Why has he put the hards on? This is bizarre.
He was on a 16-lap stint that time around. So going for 16 laps on the medium, maybe not thinking that he could bring it to the end.
Checking to see if he had an accident or anything, and I'm not seeing anything. Yeah, I really don't get it. I know it's showing the mediums on there, but I can tell you the official word is hards for Walker. I don't know why he made an extra pit stop, and especially why he put on the hards. Is Howard is going to try and make the pass on him now. Surely the softs by this point should last this long. We've only got about 11 laps to go here.
I would think so. And as well, Howard should have a fairly easy time dispatching Ryan G. Walker as well in P14, as Ryan's going to be on some ice-cold tires and slip it around this Silverstone circuit. We're looking, though, up here in P5 currently at Dawson Brock, who's about 1.5 seconds, or no, actually just under a second, excuse me, from Jorge Marquinez in front. So just sticking within that DRS, but still not able to close that window down to a point where he can make that late lunge that we saw from Jorge Marquinez. Hopefully not as late, but I'd like to see something like that regardless.
So Marquinez with a 32.3 last lap. Raskovich, who he's trying to catch, is a 32.6. He is gaining on the 3.23 cars. We hop on board with Dawson Brock back in 5th position. The podium could yet still switch around. Raskovich, might be a long ways away from 2nd place, but he's finding those behind him getting ever bigger in the mirrors.
Yeah, Raskovich is going to be needing to really keep an eye on the road in front of him and just hold on for the next 9 laps here ahead. And yeah, I think as well, he needs to hope that these two have a battle themselves, both Dawson Brock and Jorge Marquinez. They do end up scrapping. That will give a little bit of an advantage to Lucas. He can maybe pull away by a second, which is really all he needs with 10 laps left in this race. Of course, that is at 1 minute and 30 laps. We're running low on time and running out of opportunities.
Yep. If you're going to make a pass, you got to do it soon, I'm pretty certain. And these three are actually coming up to a battle between Dennis Cole and Daniel Howard. I think Dennis Cole actually just got that position. This is lap traffic. This could play a big part in the way this race plays out between these three if they catch those two.
Yeah, and speaking of Howard, that is, of course, the car that we just saw make their pit stop and dropping not just one position to Ryan Walker, but also dropping a position to Dennis Cole down to P16. So on those stone-cold tires, they should be getting back up to optimum temp, or at least getting close to it. But so far, it is going to be a bit of a struggle, and we'll see how the leaders negotiate that traffic.
Brock still on the back of Marquinez. Looks like Ed Shelley behind them is definitely nowhere to be seen. It's two cars trying to chase down a third for third. So we watch them get ever closer. In fact, now they've caught him. They are there. So they have reeled him in with the quickness. And Jorge Marquinez is now got to play defense for the remainder of these laps. Does he have enough to do so? Or is the DRS going to make this easy enough that Jorge is going to be able to just stream on by him once they get to the Wellington Straight in two corners?
That will be the question, and we're about to see right now, and it's going to be a much better exit for Jorge, actually. Oh, but he got a little out of shape. He had the run. I think he had to back out coming down the corner. We can see, though, gaining with that DRS. He tucks to the inside, and like he was in a Formula 2 car, Lucas not able to respond.
There's that GP2 engine, unfortunately for Lucas. So the 323 falls outside of the podium. Marquinez, we wondered why he dropped so many places. Well, he's responding once again. So just got to trust the strategy, I suppose, in some of these cases. In Marquinez's case, the strategy is working quite well. He's not going to finish second, but I don't think he would have had second anyways with Dallas Pataska looking so fast today. Now the question is, will Dawson Brock also make mincemeat out of Lucas here on the straight?
Yeah, Raskovich seems to, okay, maybe not this time around. Dawson Brock with a bit of a moment and kicking up some dirt. He is going to have to gain that time back. He still has DRS, so that will help him out at least down the straight, and try again next time around.
Almost looked like Lucas got pretty close there with his own DRS for a moment, and they have now caught Daniel Howard. Oh, and the traffic is just not working for Jorge here, who is now he's pulling off to the side, and he's lifting to let him through, lifting a little bit, needs to do more than that, takes the apex away from Lucas. Lucas gets the worst of it. It switches back, and it goes back to Dawson Brock now, having to try to sneak inside of Daniel Howard. Not exactly making friends, I think, in that scenario, except for maybe Jorge.
Yeah, it was a tough one there for the back marker, of course, just kind of having to compromise their own race and allow this battle to unfold in front. Dawson Brock did come off a little bit worse there, but I don't think that is going to shake him whatsoever. He is going to be head down and on the charge, try to get that P4 from Lucas in front. Of course, Raskovich potentially is slipping here. Maybe the tires fell off a window, maybe low on battery. I'm not sure what the reason is, but it seems the pace just isn't quite there from Lucas on these previous few laps.
I get the feeling it's less Lucas losing pace, more Jorge just having the pace, because we saw him fight his way from farther down in the field. And we've had a problem with Håkan Schutt just now. Looks like he has spun off the course on his own out of the loop. It's one of the few times we've seen drivers actually spin up the tires coming out of one of the slow corners, which surprises me. You can see it going around here, Mike. These things, what is it? Something like 1,000 horsepower with all the hybrid in there.
Yeah, give or take. Whew. Big spin. Also a nice little pirouette 360, and he is going to rejoin fairly safely. That was very close, actually. His car was not quite catching. The car came very close to us on the exit there. Luckily, though, nice and patient. Yeah, 1,000 horsepower to try to plant it on the throttle in the grass typically doesn't go well.
Certainly not. And the other thing we haven't mentioned, really, I don't think at all during this entire broadcast, is there are full course yellows, virtual safety cars, as they're going to be calling them here in the majors, that can be applied, but that's if two cars make contact and are stranded out on track. But we haven't seen that yet. Again, only one DNF, and that's Steven Grabowski, and his was a single car incident. Everybody else has managed to keep it going of our 20 starters, with Gagaro being the last of them. What happened here? This looks like Brock making a pass. Yeah. Catches up to Raskovich around the outside. Through he goes.
Yeah, Raskovich really slipping down the field. I think it is to be said. I think Lucas even realizes that himself, is that really didn't look like he fought that too hard. He didn't cover the inside too hard. I mean, he did slightly, but nonetheless, Lucas is going to be falling back, and Edward Shelley is going to be up next to try to dispatch him, but 8 seconds behind the road. It'd be quite the ask if Edward does manage to catch. But I think if Edward catches, we could see a change in P5 as well.
He is quicker than him, and in fact, by a pretty good margin. It might even be as much as 2 seconds per lap. So actually, Edward could catch up to him. I wonder, because I know you were saying you think that maybe Lucas is a little bit slower on pace, and let me look here. It doesn't look too drastically different from earlier on in the race, but I kind of wonder, since you have to put the amount of fuel in you need to finish the race, if the car potentially is starting to tell him you're not going to make it.
That very well could be, yes. I'm going to go for a little heavier lift and coast strategy. I didn't think about that. Something is up here with Lucas, that is for sure, as the time is just not, as you mentioned, though, it is there compared to earlier, but it's not there to the drivers around. Of course, the car's much lighter on fuel over the course of this race after traveling, well, close to 187 miles so far through Silverstone. It is definitely going to put the wear throughout on that car.
Also, I was checking out the lap times between Marquinez and Pataska. Jorge is catching up to Dallas, but he's got 6.5 seconds to gain on him, so I don't think that one is as much under threat. There he is now, Jorge, in the number 32s, the bright black, magenta, and green car, as he finishes up another lap. So, yeah, there is the comparison. Dallas very consistent. In fact, one of them was a full second slower than Jorge.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That could just be, I think that's due to the tire. That's right. We're on different tire compounds. So the hard tires, much worse is what it seems in terms of lap time, which is what you would expect. Of course, Ross having to take the mediums started on hards, and Dallas started on mediums and had to take hards come the pit stop, as there's 2 mandatory sets that you have to use tonight. And that is really coming to show. New fastest lap set as well for Brian Boomsma.
Brian up to 8th position, took a second pit stop for reasons we're not sure of, but certainly looks quick, at least at this stage. Boomsma is on the soft, though, so he did go for that strategy of trying to put one of the quickest tires on, and yeah, no wonder he set the fastest lap of the race then with a 31.4 put down. And he's reeling in Stephen Verweyen at a high rate of knots, so I think this is probably going to be easy work to at least get 7th. Not sure if he can catch Shelley before this is done.
Yeah, Shelley 4 seconds up the road from Verweyen, so it is possible, but we are running out of time here. In fact, we're already at lap 48 of 52. This race has gone by quite quick. And Ross leading almost every single lap of it, it is to be said as well. Of course, come the pit phase was the only time he didn't lead. So an absolute masterclass from the 777 up at front.
He's been just basically running this one to perfection so far, but he still has to finish it up with these 3 or 4 laps to go. Brock back here in the number 15 is trying to keep up with Marquinez, but it looks like he might actually fall out of the DRS range here this time by, because he's just over a second behind him.
Needs to stick with it. Running out of time as well, but Dawson, I think, yeah, maybe accepting that P4 is where it's going to be for him. I hope not, though. We go side by side. That's a back marker. Of course, going to give a little bit of a toe to Dawson, as you can see him try to use that to his advantage. And it does get by before we reach the, not final turn complex, of course, the Brooklands, Luffield, and Woodcut Sweep turn complex.
Yeah, and Dawson is now 1.5 seconds back, so he did not get the gain from that slipstream that he needed, and definitely was outside of the DRS zone for Jorge Marquinez. I'm sure he'd love a podium, but it just isn't looking like it's there unless he can get a mistake out of Jorge. He's keeping him honest at the very least, Mike, but the pace doesn't look like it's there.
No, it doesn't. And I'd love to pop on board as well with Ross Banfield, just our race leader, to see what it's like up at front. Maybe see what the grip is. Is he struggling, or is he just cruising? Coming out to start, I think, another lap once again. No, it's not start-finish straight. My apologies.
No, he was on the
Oh,
start
he is?
finish.
Okay.
Yes.
It all looks the same. My apologies. Into Village and Farm once again here in Ross. You can see not a correction of the wheel.
Yeah, he's honestly looking really good on this one. He's up to 6.7 seconds ahead of Dallas Pataska and continuing to stretch away. It's been falling well into his lap. Marquinez is gaining on Pataska, but he's definitely not going to have enough time. Boomsma with another fastest lap here, and he has moved up into 7th recently. He's got about 3.4 seconds to Shelley. Let's see, what laps are Shelley doing? 32.6, 32.7. Boomsma with 31 flat, 31.7. That was with a pass, I think, on the previous one. So, yeah, he'll start to catch him, but I think he's just going to run out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, 3.5 seconds. It will be very tough to do in the next 2 laps, as we see Ross here. It's compared with Shelley's lap time, so Shelley absolutely, or excuse me, that's Boomsa, absolutely flying. But of course, on those new set of softs, that would be the explanation for that.
And Shelley is currently running on, actually, he's running on softs as well, and he's also taken tires relatively recently. They're about 3 laps older than Boomsma's, so he's playing a very similar strategy, except Shelley has only taken 1 pit stop, so this has worked out quite beautifully for him, because he's at least going to look at a 6th place finish as it stands now here towards the end of the race. 2 laps to go currently for our leader as he has crossed the line recently. There he is coming down the Wellington Straight, putting in another lap on Kevin Hill this time, so only 11 cars left on the lead lap by the end.
Yeah, and up now into the Woodcut Sweep sector again. Ross said before, just a masterclass of a drive from the 777. And Dallas behind, credit where credit's due. Up 8 positions from where he started. Started in P9, ended up, or looking like he's going to end up in P2 tonight. So very strong charge through the field. Has made pretty easy work of the cars around him as well. We saw that lovely scrap between him and Jorge. He made that battle almost look easy, almost like they were in a different class. So, I say, some talent out on the field tonight. Jorge as well, just ringing up the podium positions.
Curious what the emotions are inside the helmet of the 777, knowing that he's looking not only at his 2nd ever win of the season, but he is going to potentially be our champion in the same race that he is going to win here today. But he has to take it for a little over 3 more miles, about 3.5 miles, to claim this checkered flag. White flag is out now as he crosses the line. 1 to go.
Final lap left, as you said, 3.6 miles, 18 corners to negotiate here for our race leader, Ross, and it has been a stellar performance, an electric drive, I would say, from Ross, the 777. I'm pretty sure the champagne, well, hopefully it's not already flying, but I think it is going to be ready and at hand for this championship celebration.
So we give some love here to him. Haven't seen a whole lot of him on screen with the lead that he's had most of this race, but Ross deserves the kudos here for this one. All he had to do was finish within the top 3, and he could seal it up no matter what happens to his rivals. And he's going to do even better than that by taking the win. And David Gaccaro Jr. just took the fastest lap of the race. That doesn't mean anything in this series. There's no bonus points for that. So it's sort of a bit of a pointless stat, at least here today, compared to real Formula One with the bonus that you can get there. Through the Maggots and Beckett's as we ride on board. The UDOX Oliver driver takes it down the hangar straight with just a couple more corners to go to wrap this one up. Have the butterflies started to hit? Has he started to let it sink in what's going to happen here? Of the few drivers we've had in the decade of history here in the majors that have taken the championship, Ross Banfield, he's a veteran in the series. It's been a long time coming, and he is your race winner and champion.
Excellent drive from Ross Banfield. Dallas Petraska does come across the line there for P2. The 23 car with a valiant charge from P9. Just tried to take the championship at the very end here in the race, but not quite able to do so.
Boomsma caught up to Shelley, but I don't think he's going to get the pass done for that 6th position. The 1 car wound up about half a second behind at the line. There you see him. Boy, Shelley's probably breathing a sigh of relief on that one. And the last of our drivers now start to head through, as, like I said, only 11 of them able to complete all 52 laps today as they reach the finish. That's going to take us to a quick break, of course. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so make sure and stick around. Welcome back to Silverstone, the season finale for the 2023 Majors. Here for the Majors British Grand Prix, saw the likes of Ross Banfield not only take the win, but unofficially is our champion for the season. What a run for the 777. It was Dallas Pataska who wound up second behind him in the end, and Jorge Martinez was third as Dawson Brock finished P4 today. Lucas Roskovich was fifth with Edward Shelley finishing sixth, just barely beating out Brian Boomsma. What a recovery drive from the number one driver who finished in seventh today after starting from third and getting hit off track in the very first corner. Stephen Verveyen was P8, and Kyle Deckard wound up in the ninth position with David Baker rounding out your top 10. Then on the next slide, it is Hakan Schutt, who finished in 11th, last one on the lead lap. Kevin Hill was P12, and Travis Henderson was 13th. Ryan Walker was gaining some spots early in the race, but I think he had a slip up here or there, and also took a second pit stop as he finished 14th, which sent him backwards. Dennis Cole was 15th, and Daniel Howard 16th. Then Trevor Vavrovsky P17. Stuart Elder was 18th today. David Gagaro Jr., 4 laps down, was 19th, and Stephen Grabowski was our only DNF in the end. I do believe we have our winner and champion-elect ready to talk to us, Ross Banfield in the 777, ready to have a chat, and I can't wait to get the reaction from him to see how he feels both about this race and his championship, as we're going to pull him in now. And a big congratulations, Ross, by our pretty easy math. Unofficially, you are the champion. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, it's been like, I think 7 years since I've started this series, so I haven't had one under my belt. I've always come close, but never quite seemed to have reached it. So kind of vindicating to finally get it.
Now, we have to confess that we kind of doubted your strategy a little bit. You went long on the first stint and you were undercut by Dallas. He overtook the lead with the quicker lap times while he was on the fresher tire. We thought you were going to have a hard time getting through. Did you have full faith that letting him take that lead temporarily wasn't going to hinder you?
I knew how much time you lose in the pits when you take tires and you nail everything right. So I knew like the window I needed to come in, and basically right when he got to 17, 16 seconds is when I knew I had to pit and take tires. Target for me was like 32 laps, but on the mediums, they start to really fall off around 25. So I didn't know what Dallas had at the start. So I thought he was running like hards, or maybe he was running like medium, soft. So once I caught up to him and I saw he was running mediums, I knew I had the race in the bag, because it's basically impossible to keep those tires alive for as long as he did. So he has a lot better tire management than I do.
Well, unfortunately for him, he didn't quite have the tire management to stay in the lead, but he was able to take home second place. Were you a bit surprised that he qualified and just kind of let himself start from way down?
I was surprised that he was off pace for qualifying, but his race pace kind of caught me off guard, because out of nowhere I just saw in the relative he went to second place, just kind of tore through the field. So that's, typical Dallas, always has great race pace. But the scary thing for me was at the start of the race, my pedal was stuck at 80% throttle, so the ERS wasn't deploying. And so like in between turns, I was just stamping the throttle, trying to get it to like re-register, and finally it kicked back on, but I was worried that I was going to lose the race by lap 1.
I mean, this had to have been frightening, with this being the last race of the season. You were in for a championship. You know that Dallas still could take it away from you. How much practice and did you need in the cars, and how hard were they with the complex hybrid systems and whatnot to drive?
Believe it or not, these cars are relatively easy with the hybrid system, because there's no manual deploy or anything. It's not like the McLaren, where you got to choose like when it deploys and all that other stuff. So as long as you just kept it in balance, that wasn't bad. The hardest part was designing a car that was good all around. I couldn't get the mediums or any other tire to last at the start. It's just the thing handles like a brick, and anything that you do to get it to handle better at the start basically makes it really unstable towards the end of the run. So my target was a set that kind of came alive right around like lap 20, 25. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely one of the trickier. I'd say this is one of the harder events, especially with the fact that there could be a yellow flag.
That's true. And yeah, we'd mentioned it briefly, but surprisingly, it never came about. Well, congratulations on both the win and the championship. Anybody you want to thank for helping you finally claim that crown?
Yeah, I just want to thank the team. It's great having the support and kind of like throwing sets at them, and they can try it out and give me feedback, and then trying out some of their stuff. It's just great camaraderie we have over there. And I also kind of wanted to thank Dallas. He's someone I always kind of put a target on his back. I hope he feels the same way about the rivalry, but he always keeps me honest every race. So hopefully I can keep racing him. We'll see.
It was fun watching you two go back and forth. That was Ross Banfield, your winner here today in the final round at Silverstone. And Mike appears to have caught up with Dawson Brock, who finished fourth here today. Let's have a little bit of a chat with Dawson and see how he feels about how this one went.
Yeah, Dawson, how's it going? Just first off, congratulations on your P4, almost into the podiums, but not quite. I'm just wondering, how do you feel on that? Do you feel you had the podium pace today?
It was kind of just show up and see. This is a last second thing to kind of run with some of the guys over at Grizzly. I saw it. It's fun with the tire compounds and stuff, a little extra strategy on top of that. Awesome that Majors brought in the pace car to kind of potentially mix things up. I know you guys didn't get to see that, but still looked like a really good race. I feel like it was really close on pace. I was trying to deploy as much attack as possible to just stay within the DRS of Jorge, and ultimately he was able to get away from me. I think I had a little bit less downforce than him too, which anytime I got close to him, it looked like the front was kind of just washing out from me. But otherwise, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time, and if I could have been in DRS range, I think I might have been able to get a move on him. But props to Jorge.
Yeah, all in all, you guys put on an absolute incredible scrap throughout that fight. I got to say, just absolutely top tier entertainment from you two battling, as well as Lucas in the behind you guys. awesome stuff. How do you feel about this car, though? We had a little word there from Ross. He seems to think these cars are fairly easy on their driving. Do you feel the same way?
I found it not so intimidating to get into as well. Coming from running a lot of GTP and prototype stuff, I think it handles a lot like that. Definitely easier than the previous Formula One car, the W12. I think the W12 is a little bit more snappy on throttle. I think this underside arrow that this car has makes it very, entry friendly. You see all kinds of skill levels here in the majors, and from top to bottom, it seemed like everybody was kind of enjoying the car.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got one last question for you here. In terms of next season in the majors, what are you looking at? Are you looking to maybe take not only just a race win, are you looking to maybe make a nice little impact into the championship standings even?
We'll see. Right now, it's not in the plans. I kind of just want to see what the guys do, but I really enjoy this kind of when races come up that I think, I might be competitive in and enjoy the car and enjoy the racing. I like to show up for them. I did that. Last time I did that was Indy 500 a year ago. I ended up winning that. That was a really fun race. But yeah, I really do like the one-off thing, kind of pick and choose with a busy schedule in the other side of life. But, maybe maybe I'll be more open to it with how much fun we had here today.
That's awesome, Dawson. I can't wait to see what you have in the future. Of course, Dawson Brock, P4 today in the number 15 car. Thank you very much, Dawson, and congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
That was your fourth place finisher, Dawson Brock, and we've got one more to chat with. Ryan Walker in the number 97 here today, an Indy 500 winner, but couldn't quite hack it today, it appears, although he did have a pretty good race climbing up the order. Ryan, you were one of the few that we saw take 2 stops. What was your reasoning? Because it looked like to us the one stop was the call.
Yeah, basically, I never had the...
Oh, you cut out, Ryan.
Sorry about that. My microphone cut off. I just never had as much time to practice for this race, so it's kind of just jump in and basically see how it went. And I think I wasn't sure what the other guys were going to do, and I know that I wasn't really going to be challenging up at the front, so I thought just try something and see if it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But managed to finish, which was the main thing, so I can't complain with that.
We were kind of on our toes waiting to see if we'd wind up with a virtual safety car, because we know that was one of the things the majors decided they wanted to try for this race, and yet it never came. Were you surprised at that?
Yeah, I was expecting a safety car at the start of the race, to be honest, just because so many drivers were having issues, and I think it's just drivers being caught out on cold tires. But I have to say credit to everyone that was in the race and it managed to finish, and there was no safety car, so I take my hat off to that.
Same here. That is brilliant to see that everybody has been able to hop in these cars and drive them as well and as safe as they did. Now, I understand they're going to be making some announcements, or maybe have made some announcements for next season. Is there anything in particular, any race besides the Indy 500 that you're looking forward to?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I hope the obvious sports car races that are on the schedule next season, say your Daytona, Le Mans, even Spa or the Nordschleife.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to the Nordschleife being on there. I love that one. But again, excellent racing out there, Ryan. Great run up from 18th to 14th today.
Cheers, Joe, and cheers to you guys for the broadcast this season in the Major Series. Great to watch as always.
So Ryan Walker, who finished 14th today here in the final round of the majors, which is going to wrap us up. So, of course, we want to give a quick mention one more time to the charity that they've been raising funds for this race, the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And also thanks to the team today with Mike, Bradley, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, including up next, the Rolling Thunder Series goes to Rockingham. That'll be at 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.